Chapter 816. All of a sudden, the woman looked at her abdomen in surprise. What happened to my injury? She knew her injury clearly. After she was injured by the Central Prefecture's king's projection, a remnant power had prevented her injury from healing, and it had become more and more serious. Even if the 5 all-creation old monsters hadn't chased after her, she would still have died. But now, her injury had completely recovered. Did that old perverted thief heal me? The woman immediately understood why he had unbuttoned her clothes. Realizing that she had misunderstood him, the anger on the woman's face weakened. Who is he? He's just a grade 2 fairy, yet he was able to get rid of the power left by the Central Prefecture's king. It's really shocking. The woman was surprised. Even if she had woken up, it would have taken her at least a month to get rid of that remnant power. However, Suyu had gotten rid of it in just a short period of time. The woman felt that Suyu's identity was quite mysterious, and she was sure that he wasn't an ordinary grade 3 fairy. After she tried to circulate her vital energy and found that her body was fine, she felt relieved. However, when she released her Jinchi, her expression changed slightly. She stretched out her fair and soft palm, and wisps of black mist rolled and rose from her palm. If Suyu was here, he would have recognized that it was the black mist, which was extremely difficult to get rid of. Suyu had only absorbed a wisp of it, and there was still a lot left in her body. How was this possible? A wisp of the ghost prison's great emperor's extreme, evil ghost energy has been gotten rid of. The woman was shocked and delighted. The extreme evil ghost energy was a taboo power in Jiuzhou's all-creation realm. Only one person could possess such a power. The ghost prison's great emperor. During the Great War between humans and ghosts 100 years ago, the ghost prison's great emperor had used his 10 underworld pearls and the extreme evil ghost energy to defeat all of Jiuzhou's experts. Among the billions of experts in Jiuzhou, only the Central Prefecture's king, Shunichen, had been able to fight him. Now, whenever the extreme evil ghost energy was mentioned, all of the all-creation old monsters who had participated in the Great War became solemn. The number of all-creation old monsters who had died in the hands of the ghost prison's great emperor was unknown. All they knew was that in front of the ghost prison's great emperor, all the all-creation experts were like ants. The ghost energy in the woman's body had come from the remnant extreme evil ghost energy when she had participated in the Great War. In the past 100 years, she had tried everything she could think of and used all the all-creation's old monsters she knew, but none of them were of any help. To this day, the extreme evil ghost chi still existed in her body. She had to constantly focus on suppressing it. Otherwise, she would be overwhelmed by killing and become a ghost. Therefore, in the past 100 years, she had no time to cultivate. She had to deal with the demonic energy inside her at all times. Her cultivation level did not improve at all and remained at the same level as before. She had given up hope many years ago. Unless the 9 regions gave birth to someone who surpassed the ghost prison's great emperor, no one could get rid of her. But today, to her pleasant surprise, a portion of the evil ghost chi in her body had been dissolved by a mysterious old man while she was unconscious. She couldn't help but wonder, is he really just a level 2 fairy? After reorganizing her thoughts, she increasingly felt that she might have met an expert. Escaping from the encirclement of 5 all-creation old monsters was something that even a trifling fairy like her couldn't accomplish. In addition, it could quickly remove the power of the Central Prefecture's king and even dissolve the power of the ghost prison's great emperor. She felt that there was a 50% chance that she had met a hidden expert. Thinking of this, the anger in her heart dissipated and was replaced by gratitude and a bit of guilt. Elder, thank you for your help. Tianxian is very grateful for it. Recalling the situation at that time, she felt a bit regretful. Perhaps her actions at that time had dissatisfied the elder, so he had only expelled a trace of the extreme evil ghost chi in her body. If she had been calmer at that time, it would have been a different situation. How could she not regret missing such a great opportunity? I wonder where I can find the elder again. The woman sighed slightly. Her heart was full of gratitude and longing for the mysterious old man. I only cared about my own safety and almost implicated him. Not only did he not get angry, but he even helped me selflessly. I believe that he is a highly respected elder, the woman murmured softly. Suddenly, a cool breeze blew past, and her sleeves fluttered slightly. The woman was startled and touched her sleeves subconsciously. When she found that there was nothing inside, her face stiffened. "Where's my flying guillotine?" She remembered clearly that before she lost consciousness, the flying guillotine was hidden in her sleeves. Even if it fell, it would follow her. The only explanation for this was that it had been taken away by someone else. Moreover, it had to be a powerful technique that could confine the flying guillotine. This person could only be an old man. When the woman came back to her senses, her expression changed several times before it became flushed. The highly respected elder in her heart was unexpectedly a thief. Splutter. Perhaps it was because her injuries still hadn't recovered, or perhaps it was because she was so angry that she spouted a mouthful of blood. She clenched her fists, gritted her teeth, and let out an angry roar that shook the entire forest. "Old perverted thief. This empress is irreconcilable with you." Suyu was completely unaware that he had angered an all-creation old monster to the point of spitting blood. He had just consumed 2 primordial chaos vital pills. The powerful medicinal power of the 4th grade primordial chaos vital pill had caused his energy C to quickly expand, but it still couldn't expand to the level of a level 3 fairy. Suyu had no choice but to consume the 5th grade primordial chaos vital pill, which had been made by the small Kylan. This pill was a rare high-quality spirit elixir, and the energy it contained was much greater than that of a 4th grade primordial chaos vital pill. After swallowing it, his chi-C rapidly expanded like a rising tide. When the medicinal power dissipated, Suyu's inner and outer dantians had expanded by more than a fold, and they were now much larger than a level 3 fairies. They were now close to a level 4 fairy. The vital energy in his inner and outer dantians overlapped, and Suyu's current vital energy quantity rivaled that of a level 5 fairy. After advancing to the level 3 fairy realm, Suyu's fleshly body had also been tempered to a certain degree. His fleshly body's power had already reached 6.5 elephants' power, and if he used the first dragon body's power, it would reach 7.5 elephants' power. On the other hand, the growth of his soul strength was very weak. Just by relying on his breakthrough, the growth of his soul strength was extremely slow. I wonder when the seed of the heart refining mortal dust liquid will arrive. Suyu was still thinking about the ancient elixir, as it could help middle-stage fairies increase their cultivation. More importantly, it could increase their soul power. Now that he had finally advanced to the level 3 fairy realm, Suyu could return to the sanctum in exchange for the 9 Suns Cosmos sword formation. Suyu was looking forward to it. 10 days later, at the sect. By the time Suyu returned, the faction was still flourishing, just as it had been in the past. When he passed by the carp leaping over Dragon Gate, he discovered that the gate was still open, and many people were trying to enter it. Several God, Lord-level existences were among them. Even the inner sanctum's disciples came, so you couldn't understand why they would participate in the carp leaping over Dragon Gate. Apart from proving one's potential, they would get a fish dragon badge, which is a strange privilege. Apart from that, they wouldn't get any benefits. Moreover, every time they entered the carp leaping over Dragon Gate, they would have to spend 100,000 merit points. Even if they were inner sanctum's disciples, they would still have to spend a great deal of money. So you could understand why they were so stubborn about the carp leaping over Dragon Gate. What surprised Suyu even more was that he saw the little demoness, Gongsun Wuxia, on one of the dragon pillars. She was at the 50th layer, and she couldn't take another step forward. In the end, she clenched her teeth and angrily gave up. She seemed quite dispirited. The 50th layer, what's left there seems to be my image. Suyu muttered to himself. The 50th layer was the position that the little demoness had reached in the past, but Suyu had surpassed her and replaced her image with his. He didn't expect that the little demoness would also insist on the carp leaping over Dragon Gate, so she immediately flew over to greet him. Wuxia. Gongsun Wuxia was wearing a long face, and when she heard someone greeting her, she replied angrily, "What are you shouting for? I'm in a bad mood." However, her ears twitched, and she quickly turned her head around. She discovered that it was Su Yu, and her sapphire-like blue eyes were rolling around. Her dispirited face immediately lit up like a spring flower, and she threw herself at Su Yu like a little bird. She then giggled and said, "Brother Yuxian, you finally came back. I missed you so much." Seeing her smiling face, the corners of Su Yu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. This lassie, what is she planning? "Brother Yuxian, I don't have any merit points left. Can you lend me some? I beg you." Gongsun Wuxie pulled Su Yu's arm and asked pitifully, "Lend me merit points? This little demoness really doesn't have any good intentions. Why don't you look for her by Shan Liang and the others?" Su Yu asked. Gongsun Wuxie replied intimately, "It's because the person I trust the most is you." Su Yu smiled. "How much do you need?" 100,000. Gongsun Wuxie stated a number bluntly. Su Yu chuckled. "Okay, but you must first swear on the heart oath scroll, and you must pay me back within a month. Plus, you must pay me back 110,000 with interest. That's already very fair. If you went to the black market to look for high interest, you would get at least 2%. Hearing this, Gongsun Wuxie's face stiffened. "Brother Yuxian, we are already so familiar with each other, so why do I still need the hard oath scroll? Don't tell me you don't trust my character?" Su Yu nodded without hesitation. "Of course I don't trust you. You are the culprit who almost caused me to be beaten to death by Bing Wuxin the first time we met. So, why should I trust you? Okay, tell me, will you swear on the heart oath scroll or not?" Gongsun Wuxie's face fell, and she placed her hands on her waist. She puffed up her cheeks and glared at Su Yu fiercely. "You scoundrel, I won't let you off." As she spoke, she ran away quickly. Su Yu smiled, but didn't say anything. He didn't know why, but the little demoness seemed to be hostile toward him. Even Su Yu couldn't figure out how he had offended her. Is it because I destroyed the little demoness shadow in the carp leaping over the dragon gate? Why is she so insistent on the carp leaping over the dragon gate? Su Yu got lost in his thoughts as he looked at her back. After half a day, they returned to the demon mountain. The 4 demons had already left the cavern, and there wasn't a single soul in the mountain. Chapter 817. Su Yu was infuriated. "I should be the one asking you that. Why did you suddenly disappear?" He had brought Zixian with him because he wanted to use her as a shield to kill the Shao family's experts. He didn't expect that Zixian would run away at such a crucial moment. Zixian shrugged her shoulders and said, "I had several people who were also looking for Su Yu. I didn't want to be discovered by them, so I ran away in advance." The companions she was referring to were obviously the 5 great bright light guards. Did this mean that she had sneaked out from the Central Prefecture's king's place to take revenge on Su Yu? Su Yu had a sudden realization. "Next time, before you leave, remember to leave me a message. Don't let me worry about you for nothing." Su Yu flicked her forehead angrily. Zixian rubbed her aching forehead, while her clear eyes were filled with curiosity. She tilted her head and asked, "Why are you worried about me?" Su Yu was startled. He couldn't understand his own thoughts. It seemed like he had never treated Zixian as an enemy, so he wondered, is it because of her clear and innocent eyes? Su Yu's gaze was gentle as he looked at Zixian. He sat down beside her and asked, "Can you tell me if there is any other way to take revenge for your uncle besides killing me?" Zixian nodded earnestly. "That's right. My master told me that the best way to take revenge for someone is to kill them. Although I don't like killing people, I must still take revenge for Uncle Blood Emperor." Su Yu's eyes became gloomy. He really didn't want to become enemies with Zixian. "Have you ever thought about whether your uncle's character is worth taking revenge for?" Su Yu had always killed people who deserved to be killed. The Blood Emperor was no exception. 100 years ago, he had exterminated all of Zhenlong's living beings and destroyed the whole Zhenlong world. He had slaughtered innumerable lives, and his hands were drenched in blood. 100 years later, he had used the same trick and tried to exterminate all of Zhenlong's living beings once again. This time, it was his turn to be erased from the world. If Su Yu was given 100 chances, he would kill him without the slightest hesitation. I don't know, and I don't want to know. I just know that Uncle Blood Emperor treated me well, and I want to take revenge for him. Zixian's eyes were filled with resolution. The clearer a person's heart was, the more resolute they would be once they set their mind on something. Since she had said so much, Suyu wouldn't be able to change her mind. Fine. I hope that you can find peace in your heart after you kill Suyu, Suyu said softly. Zixian nodded, then looked at Suyu and said, Thank you for helping me all this while. I won't trouble you anymore in the future, as I've already found his tracks. He appeared in Elegant Spirit Mountain and killed a ghost. Zixuan said with certainty. Suyu's eyes flickered. How did you know it was him? Zixuan said, It's him, I know. When Suyu killed the Blood Emperor's uncle, he used the blue and yellow sphere, as well as time power. Those two are Suyu's unique techniques, and there isn't anyone else in the Jojo continent who possesses such techniques. So, the white-haired youth who passed by the Elegant Spirit Mountain is surely Suyu. If I had known that he would appear, I wouldn't have left the Elegant Spirit Mountain that day. Zixuan said regretfully, I've decided to head to Elegant Spirit Mountain again and search carefully in that area. I must find him. I've waited until now to bid farewell to you. Was she going to leave the Red Blood Palace? Suyu's heart relaxed slightly upon hearing this, as he could now move about outside of the Elegant Spirit Mountain without any worries. Fine. I hope that you will succeed. Suyu patted her shoulder. Zixuan nodded with a faint smile. I'm leaving. If I manage to kill him, I will come back to thank you. After she spoke, her beautiful figure flickered as she flew through the air and left. Suyu stretched his body and looked at the empty demon mountain. He suddenly felt a wave of loneliness wash over him. Suyu cheered himself up and rushed toward the depository of scriptures. He had been looking forward to reading the Nine Suns Cosmo Sword Formations sword manual for a long time. After he left the demon mountain, Suyu walked halfway up the mountain and headed toward the depository of scriptures. All of a sudden, a familiar fragrance assaulted his nostrils. When he looked down, he saw a graceful and mesmerizing figure. Her fiery red clothes were tightly fitted to her body, and they seemed like a thin layer of flames that engulfed her curvaceous and graceful body. Her snow-white neck, which was set off by the bright clothes, seemed like a pearl. If one looked at her, she would seem like a beautiful woman standing in the sunset. Hee, did our central demon finally come back? A charming laughter drifted into Suyu's ears like a beautiful musical note, and it bewitched him. Suyu revealed a faint smile and said, Cabinet Mistress, long time no see. This person was none other than the Raging Flame Cabinet's alluring cabinet mistress. Even though they hadn't seen each other for half a month, she was still as charming as ever. Let's go and have a seat in my residence. The alluring cabinet mistress stepped forward and hugged Suyu's arm. Suyu was somewhat helpless. Didn't we cause enough misunderstandings last time? The alluring cabinet mistress wore a faint smile as she said, Oh, are you talking about that ice beauty who gets jealous? Hee, I'm not afraid of you at all. I'm willing to fight for your affections for my brother Yuxian's sake. Suyu rolled his eyes at this vixen. He obviously didn't think that this woman really liked him. Such a flirtatious woman seemed like she was the easiest to fall in love with, but in fact, she was the most difficult person to fall in love with. Tell me, why did you invite me to your residence? The Elixir Hall has already started to make a large number of primordial chaos vital pills, and their prices are extremely low. If we continue making them, we won't get any profits. Suyu avoided her hand. The alluring cabinet mistress's body was quite nimble, and it seemed like she was glued to Suyu's body as she held his arm tightly. Brother Yuxian, have you forgotten about it? Before you left the Elegant Spirit Mountain, I told you that I would introduce you to a person who would be of great use to you in the future. The alluring cabinet mistress grumbled coquettishly. It was only then that Suyu remembered that she had mentioned this before, but he hadn't paid much attention to it at that time. Cabinet mistress, I don't know who you want to introduce me to. I have an important matter to take care of, so I don't have much time left. Suyu furrowed his brows. He could feel that the alluring cabinet mistress and Xueqi belonged to the same faction in the palace. He didn't want to get involved in the palace's internal struggles, so he just wanted to cultivate in peace. The alluring cabinet mistress extended her finger and tapped the tip of Su Yu's nose. She then asked, "Brother Yuxian, you will know me after you arrive?" After Su Yu mulled it over for a moment, he could only nod and agree to meet that mysterious person. As the alluring cabinet mistress stood in front of the cabinet mistress's mansion, her expression became more solemn. She didn't seem flirtatious anymore. Instead, she seemed more solemn, which was the complete opposite of her previous flirtatious demeanor. The person who will introduce you to him has a high position in the inner sanctum. If you can get his appreciation, then you will get great benefits in the future, regardless of whether you are in the outer sanctum or the inner sanctum. He might even help you advance into the divine master realm in the future. She then added, "You are now one of the outer sanctum's disciples, and you will surely have a bright future ahead of you. However, whether you can advance further will depend on whether you can grasp this opportunity or not. Help him advance into the divine master realm." Su Yu was slightly surprised by this, and he wondered, who is this person? Does he have such a great faction? Under the alluring cabinet master's guidance, Su Yu went to an elegant room to meet the person she had recommended. It was a young man who was around 25 years old. He wore a white robe, and his whole body was clean. His skin was fair, and his facial features were elegant. His right hand, which was holding a teacup, was as white as jade. The whole room seemed to have been strengthened by some kind of cultivation technique, which caused the air in the room to be especially clean. Su Yu's first impression of this person was that he was quite clean. "Oh, Xuelian, you're back." The young man turned his head around and smiled. His gaze swept over Su Yu, but it was mainly focused on the alluring cabinet mistress. "Wei Zheng, he is the outer sanctum's disciple I recommended, Su Yuxian. You have already read his information, and I believe that he is qualified to become the left palace master's disciple." The alluring cabinet mistress was indifferent in front of him, and she didn't seem charming at all. Instead, she seemed cold and unapproachable. Wei Zheng chuckled and said, "Come and have a seat." As the two of them sat down, Wei Zheng held a teapot and poured them tea slowly. He then pushed the teapot in front of them. "Xuelian, what do you think?" Wei Zheng asked with a smile. The alluring cabinet mistress replied calmly, "I invited you here to see whether Su Yu is qualified or not. If he is, then he is. If he isn't, then he isn't. I will deal with my own problems." Wei Zheng didn't get angry, and it could be seen that he was a gentle man who paid attention to details. "Oh, okay." Wei Zheng then looked at Su Yu, as if he was sizing him up. The outer sanctum's exam's first place, the carp leaping over the dragon gate's 50th step, and you can also refine third-grade spear elixirs. You can be considered an outstanding outer sanctum's disciple in all aspects. Su Yu furrowed his brows. "Left palace master? Who? Palace master Mo Tianxian?" Wei Zheng was still smiling, but he still shook his head. He then lowered his head to look at the teacup in front of him and blew on it, causing the floating tea leaves to swirl. It seemed like he didn't want to explain it to Su Yu. The alluring cabinet mistress helped Su Yu out. "You have just joined the sanctum, so you obviously don't know how the sanctum's factions are divided. Generally speaking, the sanctum's factions are divided into 3 factions. One of them is the inner sanctum's palace master, Mo Tianxian. She is the Red Blood Palace's palace master, and she governs both the inner and outer palaces." She then added, "In addition, the inner palace has 2 positions, the left palace master and the right palace master. They are responsible for assisting the palace master in handling the sanctum's affairs. The palace master is obsessed with cultivation, so he rarely interferes with the palace's affairs. The left palace master and the right palace master are mainly in charge of managing the Red Blood Palace. They have great power, and they are the true managers of the Red Blood Palace. None of the Red Blood Palace's 8 factions dare to disrespect them." He then added, "A mountain can't contain 2 tigers, and you should be able to understand this. This is why the inner palace's struggles are so intense. The left palace master and the right palace master fight each other openly and covertly, and they both absorb the faction's geniuses and experts to strengthen their own factions." He then added, "Outstanding youngsters with great potential are the targets of both factions. For example, in the Demon Mountain, your 4 neighbors all displayed great potential, and they were recruited by the left palace master and the right palace master. However, it's a pity that they all refused to join the inner sanctum. Now, Wei Zheng has come here on behalf of the left palace master to invite you to join the left palace master's faction. Once you join, resources won't be a problem for your cultivation anymore. He then added, at the very least, you will get 300,000 merit points every year, as well as countless spear elixirs. This way, your cultivation speed will double, and it will be a great opportunity for you in the future. Chapter 8:18. Upon hearing this, Suyu was slightly startled. It turned out that the sanctum had 2 left and right palace masters, and they possessed great power. At the same time, Suyu realized that since the alluring cabinet mistress and Xueqi belonged to the left palace master's camp, then the outer sanctum's black market, which was represented by Ruffian Long, also belonged to the left palace master's camp. In other words, the black market, which was represented by Shaoqing Feng, belonged to the right palace master's camp. The outer sanctum's black market was just an extension of the left and right palace master's camp. After Wei Zheng waited for a moment, he took out a hard oath scroll, opened it, and pushed it in front of Suyu. He didn't look at Suyu, but just took a drop of blood essence and inserted it into the scroll. He then pointed at another corner of the scroll and said, "Insert your blood essence here." He wasn't asking for Suyu's opinion, as it seemed like he was doing charity for him. Suyu wasn't a stickler for formalities, and it was difficult for him to get angry at being looked down upon. However, he had his own considerations. He already had a demonic fairy artifact, and if he sold it in the future, he wouldn't need to worry about resources anymore. Moreover, there were many geniuses in the inner sanctum, and if an outer sanctum disciple like him joined the left palace master's camp, how many resources could he get? Suyu obviously didn't want to be bound to the left palace master's camp by signing such a restrictive heart oath scroll in order to get resources that he didn't need. Senior Brother Wei, thank you for your kind intentions, but I don't plan to join any faction. Farewell. Suyu cupped his hands at him and spoke calmly. Wei Zheng's fingers stiffened. He had never considered that Suyu would reject him. There were many outer sanctum disciples who wanted to join the left palace master's camp, but they couldn't. Now, Suyu had rejected such an offer. The alluring cabinet mistress was startled, and she said anxiously, "You still don't understand the left and right palace master's intentions." Suyu waved his hand at her and said, "I understand. Moreover, I also stated clearly that I don't want to get involved in the conflict between the 2 factions. I just want to cultivate in peace. Cabinet mistress, I appreciate your kind intentions." After he spoke, he swaggered off and headed toward the depository of scriptures. Wei Zheng paused for a moment, but he didn't try to persuade him to stay. He didn't even turn around to look at Suyu. He just put away the heart's oath scroll, shook his head, and said with a faint smile, it's better that he didn't accept it, as that's exactly what I wanted. In any case, I'm not really satisfied with him. According to his information, he seems passable, but he's just an ordinary person in the inner sanctum, which is full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. Out of respect for you, Xu Yin, I reluctantly made an exception and allowed him to join our camp. Since he refused, that's even better. This was Wei Zheng's true feelings, as he didn't really like Suyu. As the alluring cabinet mistress looked at Suyu's back, she stamped her feet in exasperation. She had fought so hard for such an opportunity, yet he had rejected it decisively. "I'm sorry for making you come here in vain," the alluring cabinet master said. Wei Zheng chuckled and said, "Since it's Xu Yin's request, I'm willing to come here in vain. Moreover, the seasonal exam is just around the corner, and I'm also planning to look for talents in it. I heard that several outstanding geniuses have joined the internal recruitment, and they will also participate in the exam. So, there might be many people with great potential among them. However, it seems like the right Palace Master's camp's people will also come to look for talents. At that time, let's see who has better judgment." After Suyu left the mansion, he went to the depository of scriptures and went straight to the sword book. What he didn't know was that after he left the estate, 2 figures had walked out from a remote corner. One of them had a ghastly pale countenance, and he said coldly, Wei Zheng really came to watch the quarterly exam as well. It seems like this year's outstanding newcomer competition will be quite interesting. Just like last time, it was covered in dust and lying on the lowest shelf, and no one paid any attention to it. Su Yu's heart was filled with excitement. So he took out his identity badge and inserted it into a notch on one side of the shelf. Immediately, many small words appeared on the wooden shelf around the notch. They were all the names of cultivation techniques. As long as he clicked on one of the books, the seal on it would disappear. So you took a look at the badge and saw that it had 209,000 merit points on it. Su Yu's heart thumped, and he found the Nine Suns Cosmos Sword Formation sword book at the end of the small words. He then clicked on it. A crisp sound echoed out from the shelf, and a line of clear words appeared on it. The Nine Suns Cosmos Sword Formation's cultivation techniques grade is unknown. After testing it, its might is equal to a middle-grade legendary cultivation technique. Since only the first half of the book is available, it's considered a low-grade legendary cultivation technique. You will have to pay 100,000 merit points for each use. So you clicked on it, and 100,000 merit points were deducted from the badge. At the same time, the Nine Suns Cosmos Sword Formation's protective seal disappeared. Su Yu sucked in the air and took the sword manual into his palm. As he held the book, he opened it, which was filled with hope. The title page was a note, and it was a record left behind by the person who tested the cultivation technique. It introduced the cultivation technique in detail, as well as the sword formation's might during the test. The Nine Suns Cosmos Sword Formation is a special sword book, and it's divided into two sword formations. The first half of the book is called the Nine Suns Sword Formation, while the second half is called the Cosmos Sword Formation. The second half of the book was lost, and only the Nine Suns Sword Formation was passed down in the world. When Su Yu read this, he was slightly surprised. He had always assumed that the Nine Suns Cosmos Sword Formation was a sword formation. It's speculated that the Nine Suns Sword Formation and the Cosmos Sword Formation can be fused together to form the Nine Suns Cosmos Sword Formation. As for its might, there aren't any records in the historical records, and there's no way to investigate its origin. The Nine Suns Sword Formation's cultivation condition is to have a powerful soul. When Su Yu read this, he was surprised. The real Nine Suns Sword Formation required soul power, which was beyond his expectations. The Nine Suns Sword Formation's activation principle is to attach soul power to the swords and control the nine swords to kill the enemy. This is why it requires an extremely powerful soul power, as well as a soul manipulation technique. Otherwise, it won't be possible to form a sword formation. Or if one soul is too weak, they won't be able to control the sword formation smoothly. Su Yu came to a sudden realization. The Nine Suns Sword Formation's might is dependent on the sword's power. The sharper the sword, the more successful it will be. According to my personal tests, if one can control 9 middle-grade spiritual artifacts at the same time, then he can kill any early-stage almighty. The following is the concrete test process. Next, it explained the sword formation's principles in detail, as well as its deployment techniques and positions. When he finished reading it, there was a final summary. This scroll is currently only suitable for early-stage almighty experts to cultivate, and it's especially suitable for first-grade almighty experts. Second-grade almighty experts will be less effective, while third-grade almighty experts will be useless. Moreover, crafting the 9 sword will consume a great deal of resources, so those who don't have a lot of resources should refrain from cultivating it. When he read this, Su Yu finally understood why the powerful sword manual, which he had been longing for, was lying in a corner of the bookshelf. It turned out that this sword manual was really useless. Because it required one's soul to attach itself to the 9 swords, it involved the soul leaving the body. Hence, it was destined that only almighty divine masters could cultivate it. As a fairy's soul couldn't leave the body, it couldn't be cultivated at all. Moreover, the 9 spiritual swords, which were middle-grade spiritual artifacts, could only unleash a power that could kill a third-grade almighty expert. If a first-grade almighty were to master it, its power would surely be extremely great, and a second-grade Almighty wouldn't be bad either. However, a third-grade Almighty would seem useless. After all, it wasn't difficult to find a magical artifact that could kill someone of the same grade. So, why would one have to pay such a huge price to cultivate this sword formation? It was already extremely difficult for an early-stage Almighty to get a middle-grade spiritual artifact, so getting 9 spiritual swords would be as difficult as ascending to heaven. Even if one managed to succeed by a fluke, its power would still be mediocre. This was especially the case after one broke through to the second-grade Almighty, and after reaching the third-grade Almighty, it would become dispensable. Which ordinary person would be willing to do such a thing? Lastly, there was another harsh condition, which was that the person had to be gifted in souls. This condition excluded 99% of the people. As long as one was gifted in souls, why wouldn't he cultivate soul attacks? The benefits he could get from this sword manual would be much greater than this. When he read this, Suyu didn't feel dejected. Instead, he became even more delighted. Indeed, this sword formation seemed sloppy and ordinary, and its power could at most be considered a middle-grade legendary cultivation technique. However, the premise of this conclusion was that the 9 swords tested were only middle-grade spiritual artifacts. If the 9 swords were of a higher grade, their power would undoubtedly be even greater. Suyu wanted to use the world's greatest divine bamboo, the heavenly orchid silver bamboo, which was known to be indestructible, to craft the silver swords. When the 9 swords flew together, any magical treasures would be reduced to dust by them, as if they were mud. How spectacular would that be? Of course, Suyu didn't neglect the harsh condition of this sword formation, which was the requirement of a powerful soul power. Suyu was confident that he could attach his soul to the swords, but according to the tester's comments, only a first-grade Almighty, whose soul was stronger than an ordinary person's, could make the 9 swords fly together. Suyu's current soul power had just reached the 4th-grade fairy level, so it was far from being able to support the 9 swords flying together. Moreover, generally speaking, the soul attached to the swords of a higher grade had to be even stronger. If Suyu wanted to use the 9 heavenly orchid silver bamboo swords, the soul power he needed would be unimaginably strong. Therefore, Suyu had to strengthen his soul as soon as possible. As he held the sword manual, Suyu had a feeling that this sword manual's power might be extremely terrifying, and that it had been severely underestimated. After putting away the sword manual, Suyu didn't leave the depository of Buddhist scriptures. He had already finished cultivating the Buddhist saints' 8 characters, so he didn't have any other cultivation techniques that were useful to him. So, it was time for him to start cultivating a legendary cultivation technique. Moreover, he had 100,000 merit points, which was enough for him to exchange for one. Suyu skipped over the bookshelf he had seen last time and continued walking deeper into it. Unknowingly, Suyu had already reached the demonic technique area. Suyu was quite curious about demonic techniques, as he hadn't cultivated them before. However, based on the demonic cultivators he had come into contact with, demonic techniques weren't just tyrannical, they were also strange and impossible to guard against. Now, he could give it a try. Suyu, who only had 100,000 merit points, could only browse through low-grade legendary cultivation techniques. However, since he had cultivated middle-grade legendary cultivation techniques, it would be difficult for any low-grade legendary cultivation techniques to catch his eye. After looking through most of the bookshelves, none of them caught Suyu's attention. Their power couldn't match Suyu's needs. All of a sudden, Suyu saw a kasaya hanging on the bookshelf. Suyu was slightly startled. Why was there a kasaya hanging on the bookshelf? When he looked at it carefully, he discovered that there were many small words on it. It was a cultivation technique. However, the words were quite vague due to the restriction. After Suyu mulled it over for a moment, he inserted it into his identity badge. The 9 Dragons devil-subduing art was rumored to have originated from a Buddha who had joined the demonic path and created this demonic technique. It would absorb demonic energy and condense demonic dragons. Every time it was condensed, it would break through a layer. It was rumored that 2 demonic dragons could fight a divine master, 5 demonic dragons could rival a middle-stage divine master, and 8 demonic dragons could rival a late-stage divine master. As for 9 demonic dragons, they would suffer the wrath of heaven and easily trigger a heavenly tribulation. The Buddha, who had created this demonic technique, had condensed 9 demonic dragons. Then, he had accidentally attracted the tribulation fire and burned it to ashes, leaving behind a demonic technique that had been passed down through the generations. This demonic technique's grade had been appraised as a high-grade legendary cultivation technique. However, in the depository of Buddhist scriptures, it could be borrowed and read at the price of a low-grade legendary cultivation technique. The reason for this was that its cultivation requirements were even more ridiculous and harsh than the 9 suns cosmosword formation. The inspection record on the title page read, "This cultivation technique cannot be tested yet, as there is no one in the Red Blood Palace who meets the requirements to cultivate it." This cultivation technique was created based on the demonic clan's cultivation techniques, and the person who cultivates it must possess the bloodline of a demonic dragon. The ancestor of the Buddha was a hybrid of a human and a demonic beast, so his bloodline inherited a weak dragon's bloodline. This cultivation technique has been passed down through the ages, and no one else has been found who is qualified to cultivate it. Hence, it is being borrowed and read at the price of a low-grade legendary cultivation technique. It is only for reference. If one does not possess the bloodline of a dragon, there is no need to waste time cultivating it. Upon reading this, Suyu clicked his tongue in amazement. Was there really a descendant of a human and a dragon? It was really unexpected. Suyu's eyes were slightly heated. He was not a descendant of a human and a dragon, but his body contained the real dragon's spirit veins, as well as the Tao Tai's eyes, which were refined by the real dragon's blood. Hence, it could be said that a weak dragon's bloodline flowed in his body. The elder who had created this cultivation technique was also a descendant of a dragon man, so his bloodline was also very weak. If he could cultivate it, then Suyu could too. This was a high-grade legendary cultivation technique, and it was only because there was no suitable person to cultivate it. So, how could Suyu miss such a great opportunity? Suyu made up his mind and spent his last 100,000 merit points to exchange for the 9 dragons' devil-subduing art. A high-grade legendary cultivation technique's might was weaker than a middle-grade legendary cultivation technique's, and Suyu was looking forward to it. Moreover, no one had ever tested this cultivation technique's might. So, if Suyu managed to cultivate it successfully, then no one would be able to discern its origins, and it would be impossible for anyone to guard against it. When Suyu was just about to grab the cultivation technique, a sharp sound of something flying through the air could be heard. Suyu's whole body was engulfed by lightning. In an instant, he teleported 30 feet away. His body was engulfed by a dazzling lightning, but his eyes still shone with a cold glint. The place where he had been a moment ago was penetrated by a powerful vital energy. Although it wasn't powerful, it was extremely quick, and if he was struck by it, he would surely suffer a great deal of pain. When he raised his eyes and looked over, he saw 2 people. The one on the left was a youth in his early 20s who was wearing a blue robe. He wore a faint smile on his face. Xiao Qingfeng. Suyu's gaze became sharp as he recognized him. The other person next to him slowly took back his pale finger. It was him who had attacked Suyu a moment ago. Suyu's gaze became ice-cold when he saw that face. Lao AI. This person's face was pale and devoid of blood, as if he was a dead person. Who else could it be if he wasn't Lao AI? Lad, your reflexes are still as sharp as before. It won't be easy for me to leave a deep impression on you, Lao AI mocked him. Lao AI laughed mockingly. They were in the depository of Buddhist scriptures, and fighting was strictly forbidden here. He had just wanted to make Suyu suffer a little. Xiao Qingfeng, who was standing behind him, wore a bright smile as he asked, "Junior brother Su, who will help you get out of this predicament?" After Suyu calmed down, he became more relaxed and mocked him. "Well, I was just wondering who it was. One of them is a scoundrel who instigates people behind their backs, while the other is a poisonous snake who likes to mount sneak attacks from behind. You two are really a perfect match." So you didn't expect that Xiao Qingfeng and Lao AI would have some sort of relationship. It seemed like they had a close relationship. Xiao Qingfeng's smile stiffened, and he snorted disdainfully. Lad, you still dare to act so arrogantly in front of Lord Lao AI? You really have guts. His intention was obviously to push Su Yu to the opposite side of Lao AI. Su Yu chuckled. My guts are obviously greater than a scoundrel's. Senior brother Shu. Oh, senior brother Xiao. I really admire you for admitting your weakness. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became gloomy when he heard Su Yu's retort. The smile on his face disappeared, and anger rose in his eyes. He had come here to infuriate Su Yu, but he had unexpectedly been infuriated by him instead. Su Yu, Xiao Qingfeng was infuriated. He pointed at his own eyes and asked coldly, What did you see in my eyes? He was clearly threatening Su Yu. Su Yu blinked his eyes. He was at a loss for a moment, but soon after, surprise appeared on his face, and he asked in a grave voice, I saw flames. Senior brother Xiao, are you going to start a fire to cook? Splutter. Xiao Qingfeng's killing intent became even more intense after he was ridiculed. This hateful lad, when he was just about to attack, Lao AI, who was next to him, waved his hand and stopped him. Don't fall for his trick. If you attack him in the depository of scriptures, you will be expelled from the sanctum, while your dantian will be crippled. The infuriated Xiao Qingfeng gradually came back to his senses. He took several deep breaths, stood behind Lao AI, and glared at Su Yu coldly. Lao AI was quite calm, and he said coldly, It seems like your luck isn't bad, as you managed to come back alive from the elegant spirit mountain. There were only 3 of them here, so they could speak openly. It was obvious that he was implying that Su Yu had managed to survive the 2 divine masters who had been sent there. Su Yu chuckled. I've always been lucky, and I had 2 senior brothers. But it's a pity that they ran away after digging out treasures. They got lost in the elegant spirit mountain and never came back. Upon hearing this, Lao AI squinted his eyes and said, I don't know how you managed to achieve it, but I think that you did an extremely stupid thing and caused their deaths. You have already been removed from the Right Palace Master's list of candidates, and the Right Palace Master's camp won't tolerate you anymore. You will even become the Right Palace Master's enemy. Enemy? Such words didn't matter much to Su Yu. Even the Central Prefecture's king was his enemy, let alone the Right Palace Master. What a joke. You sent 2 divine masters to plot against me and kill me, yet I still couldn't fight back. In your eyes, killing them was stupid, but did it mean that I was smart to wait for them to kill me? Su Yu sneered at them. Su Yu put away the kasaya in his palm and looked at them calmly. If you have any tricks up your sleeves, just bring them on. If you don't have the guts, then please make way for me. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became gloomy once again. Su Yu, don't be so insolent. Su Yu smacked his lips, shrugged his shoulders, and said, I really don't understand this matter. You 2 blocked me in the depository of Buddhist scriptures aggressively, then mounted a sneak attack on me and even threatened me. So, why is it that I'm the insolent one? Xiao Qingfeng was infuriated by this. Su Yu had a sharp tongue, and just a few words from him could infuriate him. If he had known that this would happen, he wouldn't have chosen a place like the depository of Buddhist scriptures, where he couldn't fight. So, it would be better for him to choose to go outside, as he could take advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to him to attack him. Xiao Qingfeng knew that his power wasn't great, but as a level 8 fairy, he was ranked among the top 20 in the outer sanctum, and he could easily slap a little fairy like Su Yu. Chapter 819. Let him go. In any case, he won't be jumping around for many days, Lao AI said indifferently. Xiao Qingfeng calmed down, and as he looked at Su Yu, he scolded him softly. That's right, the seasonal exam is just around the corner, so you should take advantage of it to cultivate. If you run into me, then your end won't be pretty. The quarterly assessment was an assessment that was held once every 3 months in the outer sect. It was held 4 times a year, and the first assessment was the most important to the outer sect. The first quarterly assessment happened to be 2 months after the new outer sect disciples joined. The left and right palace lords of the intersect would send people to watch the battles and pick out new disciples with excellent aptitudes to join their camps. From then on, they could enjoy endless resources and no longer have to worry about merit points. They could cultivate in peace, and their cultivation increased day by day, gradually widening the gap between them and their peers. Many of the new outer sect disciples who were in the know would try their best to perform well and fight for the favor of the envoys sent by the two palace masters. In a sense, the first quarterly assessment was the most meaningful assessment. It was comparable to the outer sect's annual year-end ranking assessment. As a new disciple, Suyu was ranked first in the outer sanctum recruitment examination. He was in the limelight and could not avoid being challenged during the quarterly assessment. Suyu didn't take his threats seriously. After all, even though a level 8 fairy's power was great, what could he do to Suyu? Suyu shook his head slightly and headed toward the fighting room. This was the second time that Suyu had come to the fighting room. It was a place where the outer sanctum's disciples could spar and cultivate, and it was filled with dense spiritual energy. Many disciples didn't hesitate to spend 10 merit points to come here to meditate and cultivate. When he reached the door, Suyu inserted his identity badge into the groove. Options appeared on the stone wall. Public fighting room, 10 merit points. The illusory combat room is full. As Suyu looked at the words illusory fighting room, he couldn't help but feel curious. The last time he came here, the illusory fighting room had been occupied by someone. Now, it had been occupied again. So, what was the illusory fighting room? However, it was a pity that the 10 illusory fighting rooms were already full. So you could only check them out next time. Just as he was about to choose the public dueling room, a crisp sound entered his ears. The words on the stone wall changed. Illusory combat room, empty. Entry costs 7,000 merit points. 7,000? So he was startled by this. After all, an ordinary early-stage fairy would have to work hard for 7 years just to get a chance to enter such an expensive fighting room. This piqued Suyu's curiosity even more. What do the 10 illusory fighting rooms mean? After Suyu thought about it for a moment, he chose to confirm it and try the illusory fighting room. Just as he confirmed it, he suddenly heard a frustrated shout from the dueling room. "Which blind fellow is it? I was just about to renew the contract when someone snatched it away." A shrill voice filled with curses gushed out of the house. It was accompanied by the appearance of a tall and sturdy young man with thick hair on his legs and rouge. When Suyu saw it, his hair stood on end. Transvestite. Later on, Suyu found out that Tian Renyao's fleshly body was quite strange because he was cultivating some kind of cultivation technique. He was extremely handsome in person, and even women were jealous of him. Even Suyu, who often saw him in his current state, felt ashamed of his own inferiority. If you, Ti Su and Ming. Him, you he would. If he you I Suyu, why is it big brother Yuxian? Tian Renyao's anger turned into shock, and he revealed a charming posture. Twisting his bucket-thick waist, he leisurely walked over. "Why didn't you say so earlier? If it's big brother Yuxian, I can also pay the bill. After all, this servant loves big brother Yuxian so much." Suyu shuddered with fear, and his body trembled as he moved aside. Suddenly, he caught a glimpse of dark red blood seeping out of his abdomen, and he couldn't help but be surprised. "Are you injured? Quarrel with someone?" Tian Renyao's eyebrows twitched, and his eyelids drooped like a frosted eggplant. Sigh, this servant failed again. He raised his head, looked at Suyu, and said, "Brother Yuxian, please help me defeat that guy." What's going on?" Filled with curiosity, Suyu entered the fighting room. When Tian Renyao looked around, it was still densely packed with cultivators. However, the places that Tian Renyao passed by were empty. The disciples huddled together like frightened sheep. When they noticed that Suyu had entered, many of the male disciples moved to block him, while protecting the female disciples behind them. The 4 great demons, no, the 5 great demons. In their eyes, perhaps they were demons that everyone feared and ghost cried when they saw them. Suyu shook his head helplessly. The central demon was supreme, and no one didn't dare to challenge him. Such a title left Suyu speechless. Suyu shifted his gaze and looked at the illusory fighting rooms. There were 10 illusory fighting rooms, and only one of them was open, while the other 9 rooms were tightly shut. When Suyu entered the open fighting room, the stone door closed by itself and informed him that he could cultivate here for a whole day. Yet, it cost 7,000 merit points to cultivate here for a whole day. As Suyu surveyed his surroundings, he discovered that the walls were engraved with complicated patterns, which dazzled his eyes and made him feel uncomfortable. However, Suyu seemed to have seen a phantom image holding a long sword in its hand. However, it instantly disappeared, which was quite strange. What's that? Suyu tried to concentrate his mental energy and continue observing the walls. Sure enough, the phantom image appeared once again, and as Suyu concentrated his mental energy, it appeared for a longer time. In the end, it seemed like it was frozen in place. All of a sudden, the phantom image on the wall spoke in human language. "Do you want to challenge me?" Suyu was taken aback by this, as he suddenly understood the illusory fighting room's purpose. It turned out that a phantom image with an afterimage could be left here through mysterious patterns, and the people who cultivated here could fight with the phantom image at any time. This way, they could improve their cultivation and cultivation techniques. It's no wonder that it's so expensive. Suyu nodded slowly. He still didn't understand the significance of the phantom image in front of him. "I don't need it." After he understood the illusory fighting room's purpose, Suyu's interest in it disappeared. His current task was to quickly comprehend his new cultivation technique, the 9 Dragons Devil Subduing Art. After cultivating it, he would fight with the phantom image to improve himself. As Suyu refused, the phantom image disappeared by itself. Suyu sat down cross-legged, spread the kasaya on his knees, and carefully observed its contents. The greatest difference between demonic techniques and ordinary techniques was that demonic techniques required demonic energy to be condensed. Using demonic energy to circulate a cultivation technique was completely different from using ordinary vital energy cultivation techniques. This was why cultivating demonic techniques required items that contained demonic energy, such as spirit elixirs and worldly spiritual objects. Demonic beings weren't easy to find, and it was even more difficult for early-stage fairies to find them. They could only get low-grade elixirs from the sanctum every month to increase their demonic energy. Fortunately, the Red Blood Palace was a demonic faction, so it didn't have strict requirements for its outer sanctum disciples. They were allowed to continue cultivating vital energy cultivation techniques. Demonic energy? Suyu muttered as he groped around in his spatial ring. Then a black hair slowly floated in his spatial ring. It was completely black, straight, and hard, and it seemed like a black steel needle. A devil's hair. In the past, when he had fought with the demonic shadow in the mysterious heavenly divine pavilion, he had managed to kill it and leave behind a single hair of its main body. It was rumored that it was a single hair of a heavenly true demon. Its fighting prowess could rival that of a level 9 divine master. If even a single hair was so powerful, then how terrifying would a true, heavenly, true demon be? Suyu's eyes lit up as he looked at the devil's hair. This hair contained an extremely pure demonic energy, and it was even more powerful than the demonic energy of the demonic cultivators that Suyu had seen before. It seemed like it wasn't just an ordinary demonic energy. Is it because it came from a heavenly, true demon? As Suyu was filled with anticipation, he placed his palm on the hair and slowly absorbed the demonic energy that had seeped into his body's internal energy channel. When the demonic energy entered his body, an ice-cold, stinging, and scorching sensation filled his internal energy channel. Suyu furrowed his brows. This was his first time absorbing demonic energy, and it wasn't a good feeling. Moreover, as the amount of demonic energy he absorbed increased, Suyu felt that something was wrong with his body. It was as if his whole body was filled with a foreign substance, and he felt extremely uncomfortable. If one observed Suyu's outer appearance carefully, they would discover that his fair skin was gradually taking on a faint, dark color. At the same time, he felt restless, and it was difficult for him to calm down. After half a cup of tea's time had passed, Suyu suddenly opened his eyes, which emitted a brutal aura. Sure enough, my mental state has been affected. Suyu took a deep breath and tried his best to clear his mind. It was rumored that the demonic path's people were irritable and loved to kill. The demonic path had existed since ancient times, and its origins were unknown. The only thing that could be confirmed was that it was related to some extremely evil and ferocious living beings. At this moment, Suyu's body was filled with demonic energy, and he had reached the required level to circulate his cultivation technique. As Suyu gazed at the scripture on the Kasaya, he started to circulate his cultivation technique according to its instructions. After 2 hours had passed, Suyu managed to circulate the demonic energy in his body for 1 big circulation and 9 small circulations with great difficulty. According to the instructions of the cultivation technique, his body should have undergone some changes, but in fact, there were no changes at all. Just as Suyu was wondering whether he wasn't suitable for this cultivation technique, he felt a slight pain between his brows. The Tao Tai's eye, which was hidden between his brows, emitted a warm current and entered Suyu's internal energy channel. It was the real dragon's blood, which had fused with the eye. The dragon's blood quickly spread to Suyu's limbs and bones. At the same time, the dark color on Suyu's body gradually converged toward his chest and formed a dragon's shape. However, it was still very vague, and it was far from being able to take shape. It was just like what the cultivation technique had said. Only by containing the dragon's blood could the dragon's shape be formed. Now, he just needed to continue absorbing demonic energy and circulate his cultivation technique to stabilize the dragon's shape. Then, he would be able to cultivate the first demonic dragon. Suyu calmed himself down and continued absorbing the demonic energy from the devil's hair. For hours passed, 6 hours passed, and then 8 hours passed. When a whole 24 hours passed, Suyu suddenly opened his eyes. A dragon, which was as black as ink, had a ferocious and dignified appearance and was filled with a barbaric aura. It was vivid and lifelike, as if it was a real dragon. Its eyes were especially lifelike, as they were filled with spirituality. I have successfully cultivated the first dragon. The light appeared in Suyu's eyes, as this cultivation technique was much easier than he had expected. It was probably because of his body's condition, as well as the devil's hair's pure demonic energy, that Suyu had managed to cultivate this demonic technique to the first level in just 1 day. Suyu's eyes flickered as he stood up and looked back at the stone wall's patterns. Chapter 820. This cultivation technique had never been tried by anyone since it had been stored in the Red Blood Palace. As he concentrated his mental energy, the virtual image of a person holding a sword appeared. It was a tall and slender woman. At first glance, he thought it was Bing Wuxin, but her temperament was not as cold and ruthless as Bing Wuxin's. Instead, it was very gentle, like a small bridge with flowing water. "Do you want to challenge me?" the woman on the wall asked. Her voice was simple and pleasant to listen to. Suyu nodded. "Yes." The woman on the wall nodded. "Fine, I'm just a virtual image. I will only use 1 move, and you only have 1 chance. If you can defeat me, the challenge will be considered a success." "I understand. Let's begin." Suyu nodded. The woman pulled out the sword on her back slowly. Her temperament, which was just like a small bridge with flowing water, suddenly changed. It was swift and fierce, like a hot knife through butter. At this moment, she seemed to have turned into a long sword in her hand, looking down on everything and destroying everything. Suyu was shocked by the peerless sharpness. He could feel that his opponent's cultivation was the same as his, but the sword intent that erupted from her was earth-shattering. A sword from the west. The woman's virtual image thrust her sword at him. Her movements were slow, without any fancy moves or techniques. It was just a simple thrust of the sword. However, when facing this sword, Suyu felt as if the entire world was filled with this sword, and he couldn't avoid it or escape from it. He was shocked, but he no longer hesitated. A dragon shocks the heavens. Suyu weaved signs with his hands, and demonic energy surged from his body. His chest was boiling hot, and he let out a loud dragon roar. At the same time, a black dragon that was 100 feet long flew out of the space in Suyu's body. A savage aura, a ferocious, murderous energy, and the majesty of the dragon race filled the secret room. Even Su Yu was astonished by such a powerful aura. This demonic dragon was stronger than he had imagined. Moreover, it gave Su Yu a familiar feeling, as if he had felt this demonic dragon's aura somewhere before. The sword and the dragon collided in a shocking manner. The sword energy pierced through the demonic energy like a rainbow, destroying everything in its path. The demonic dragon roared, and its boundless power collided with the dense sword energy. Buzz! Buzz! The whole illusory fighting room trembled slightly. The people in the fighting rooms outside were startled, and they couldn't help but look at Su Yu's fighting room in astonishment. The expression of Tian Rinyao, who was teasing a handsome man, suddenly froze. His eyes shone brightly as he looked at the fighting room, and a shocked expression appeared on his face. Such a big commotion? What is Su Yushin doing? Inside the room, the demonic dragon and the sword qi intertwined and destroyed each other. The illusory figure stood unscathed and said calmly, "It's a draw." Neither side could do anything to the other, so it was naturally a draw. As soon as the voice finished speaking, the phantom dissipated. In a sense, Su Yu's failure to defeat him meant that he had failed the challenge. However, Su Yu was only practicing his new cultivation technique and had no intention of challenging it. Otherwise, if he used his full strength, he would be able to destroy the virtual shadow. Ding! With a soft sound, the stone door opened naturally. One day had passed. So fast, Su Yu still didn't have enough of it, so he was forced to restrain his demonic energy and the devil's hair on his palm. What surprised Su Yu was that the demonic hair had become much dimmer. Cultivating a dragon has consumed such a large amount of demonic energy. It seems like I must find something with sufficient demonic energy, Su Yu thought to himself. As Su Yu stood up and left the stone room, Tian Rinyao walked over to him and examined him. He then asked in surprise, "Brother Yushin, what were you doing inside? You caused such a huge commotion and scared me to death." Su Yu replied, "I didn't do anything. I just exchanged a blow with the illusory figure in the stone wall and tried to practice my new cultivation technique. That woman is quite strong." "Ah, you challenged Jian Wuxian?" Tian Rinyao was surprised by this, and he examined Su Yu once again. "What was the result of the challenge? You didn't admit defeat, did you?" Looking at Su Yu's appearance, there was nothing messy about him. "Is that woman called Jian Wuxian?" The name sounded like a man's. Admit defeat? Su Yu didn't understand why Tian Rinyao was so surprised. Tian Rinyao was taken aback. "Then, what was the result of your fight?" He couldn't understand. Since he didn't admit defeat, why was he still safe and sound? The cultivation of the figure in the painting would automatically adjust to the challenger's cultivation level. He had challenged him many times, but he had never won. In fact, it wasn't just him, as no one had ever succeeded in challenging him. This was because Jian Wuxing was an invincible legend in the Red Blood Palace and the 18 Blessed and Heavenly Lands. No one in the same generation as her could block a single sword strike from her. Even now, no one had managed to break her undefeated record. It was probably a draw. "That woman is really amazing," Su Yu said. Tian Rinyao's eyes unexpectedly widened, and he sucked in a breath of cold air. You fought Jian Wuxing, who was in the same generation as you." When his words echoed out, many people in the surroundings looked at him in shock, as if they were looking at a monster. Su Yu realized that this was odd, and he asked in surprise, "Is Jian Wuxing special?" All of a sudden, the whole area quieted down, and they all looked at Su Yu as if he was an alien. Tian Rinyao's eyes widened, and it was only after a long while that he asked hesitantly, "Are you not from Jiuzhou? Don't you know who Jian Wuxing is?" Su Yu was startled, and he replied hurriedly, "Before I came into the world, I lived in the depths of a mountain, so I don't know anything about the outside world. May I ask who Jian Wuxing is?" Tian Rinyao wore a doubtful look, but he didn't think too much about it, as it wasn't strange for people like Jian Wuxing to live in the depths of a mountain for a long time. As a disciple of the Red Blood Palace, you should learn about Jian Wuxing's great name. She used to be a disciple of the Red Blood Palace, and she was born here. She used to be the greatest person in her generation, and no one could block her sword. A peerless genius? Suyu nodded, but he wasn't too surprised. He had seen many geniuses throughout the ages, and he had even fought a genius like Gu Taishu twice. So, it wasn't surprising at all. Oh, I see. Where is she now? Is she still in the Red Blood Palace? Suyu asked casually. Tian Rinyao said word by word. She left the Red Blood Palace several hundred years ago, and now she is one of the Jiuzhou kings, the Lifeless Sword Prefecture's prefecture king. Wait, a prefecture king? One of Jiuzhou's 9 kings? Suyu was slightly shocked, as Jian Wuxing was unexpectedly a prefecture king. This meant that the person he had just fought was a level 3 fairy prefecture king. It was no wonder that they were so surprised that Jian Wuxing was able to fight to a draw with the young prefecture king. Suyu was surprised, but he quickly calmed down. After all, Jian Wuxing didn't just possess the power of a single sword strike, and fighting to a draw with her wasn't something worth showing off or being proud of. Oh, I see. Suyu nodded. Tian Rinyao had waited for a long time, but Suyu's current expression made him want to strangle Suyu. Can you change your expression? You don't understand what kind of earth-shattering matter you had just done. Suyu shrugged his shoulders indifferently. Oh, is that so? The secret room has been opened, so if you want to challenge it, you should hurry up. He was already short of money, and he only had 2,000 merit points left. He didn't even have a chance to enter at once. Tian Rinyao was so infuriated that his whole body shivered, and he quickly entered the secret room. Fine, I will also give it a try. I want to see whether there is something wrong with the phantom image. However, after just a few minutes had passed, a miserable shriek echoed out. Tian Rinyao covered his shoulder and ran out with a sullen look on his face. There is nothing wrong with the phantom image. It's Brother Yuxian who has a problem. You are the Demon Mountain's true demon. The news spread like a clap of thunder. Everyone was shocked. In the alluring cabinet mistress's mansion, Wei Zheng and Xueqi were both in a side room, and the alluring cabinet mistress was sitting opposite them. Aunt, please promise me that you will go back to the inner sanctum. Don't ruin yourself like this, Xueqi begged. The alluring cabinet mistress wasn't moved by her pleas, and she just cast a glance at her. What? You came back from the inner sanctum again, and you want to watch the seasonal exam and find a candidate for the left hall master? Xueqi was helpless, and she knew that it would be useless to try and persuade her any further. So, she sighed and said, helping senior brother Wei Zheng is just one of my reasons. Moreover, I came back from the inner sanctum because I heard that Suyu had come back, and I wanted to thank him for saving my life. The news that she had been saved by Suyu wasn't a secret at all. Okay, he's in the Demon Mountain, so you can go there and have a look at him at any time. The alluring cabinet mistress didn't take this seriously. Wei Zheng chuckled and said, Junior Sister Xueqi, you should quickly go there and come back. You should really pay back the debt you owe him as soon as possible, so that people won't misunderstand him and assume that he's our Left Palace Master's disciple. Then, in the future, he will rely on our Left Palace Master's reputation to run amok in the outer sanctum. Xueqi furrowed her brows. Wei Zheng's words were quite harsh. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, Xueqi could still feel that Suyu wasn't a snobbish person. Senior brother Wei, if he wanted to become the Left Palace Master's disciple, he should have agreed to it yesterday. So, why did he have to rely on his reputation to intimidate others? Xueqi was slightly displeased. Wei Zheng revealed a faint smile. Him? He probably knows that he isn't qualified to become the Left Palace Master's disciple, so he rejected it to show his value. I have seen many people like him, so it isn't strange for him to act like this. Xueqi was quite annoyed. Wei Zheng's power was pretty good, and that was why he had such high standards and arrogance. At this moment, a maid hurriedly came to report something to the alluring cabinet master and whispered something in her ear. The alluring cabinet master wore a calm expression, and she was startled for a moment before she shivered and asked, Is this true? The maid replied, It's absolutely true. Many outer sanctum disciples witnessed it with their own eyes, and Tian Rinyao was also there. So it shouldn't be false. Xueqi raised her brows and asked, Auntie, what happened? This was the first time that she had seen her Andy lose control of herself like this. The alluring cabinet master regained her composure and looked at Wei Zhang. She wore a faint smile as she said, "It's nothing. It's just some news that came from the fighting room." An outer sanctum disciple challenged Jian Wuxing and ended in a draw. Xue Qi was startled. "It can't be. How is this possible?" Wei Zhang's calm smile froze, and his eyes flickered with a bright light. Surprise appeared in his eyes as he asked, "Who is it?" Delight welled up in his heart, as no one had ever managed to end in a draw against Jian Wuxing. Since this person could achieve such a feat, he must surely be someone with outstanding potential. In the outer sanctum, there were only a few talented youths selected from the 8 great factions. If he could recruit this person and make him the Left Palace Master's disciple, he would surely be heavily rewarded by the Left Palace Master. The alluring cabinet master chuckled and said, "Why are you so surprised? Didn't you just meet him?" Chapter 821. Xuelian, please state clearly which genius it is. We must recruit such a genius into our Left Palace Master's faction, Wei Zhang said solemnly. The alluring cabinet mistress felt much more at ease, and she revealed a faint smile as she said, "Isn't he Su Yuxian, who isn't even qualified to become the Left Palace Master's faction? Even senior brother Wei doesn't like him. So how could he have fought Jian Wuxing to a draw? It's just a rumor." Hee. Wei Zhang was petrified. How could it be him? I don't believe it. After Wei Zhang came back to his senses, his expression became gloomy as he shook his head. "I'm quite good at judging people, and this person's talent is just so. The rumor that he fought Jian Wuxing to a draw needs to be verified." Hee. Won't we know during the seasonal exam? The alluring cabinet mistress was in a good mood, and as she took a sip of tea, she was overjoyed. Xue Qi was dumbfounded. She couldn't believe it either. Xue Qi shifted her gaze and said, "This won't do. I must go and meet him now. Regardless of whether it's true or not, we mustn't let the right palace master beat me to it." Similarly, Lao Ai and Xiao Qingfeng were shocked when they heard this news. "It's impossible." Xiao Qingfeng shook his head firmly. He didn't believe this rumor. Lao Ai got lost in his thoughts, then said in a deep voice, "It's quite possible. There were many witnesses, so it's impossible for him to fabricate a rumor. If I had known that this lad was so capable, I would have been more lenient in dealing with Wuxin's matter. But now I can't back down." Lao Ai regretted his decision. Now, both sides were like fire and water, and the possibility of Su Yu joining the Right Palace Master's faction was almost zero. If the Right Palace Master found out that they had blocked such a heaven-defying genius from joining the Right Palace Master because of their personal grudges, they would probably suffer unimaginable punishments. Lao Ai's mood instantly became restless. "We mustn't let this continue. If it's proven that he's so capable, he will surely be recruited by the Left Palace Master. At that time, how could the Right Palace Master not be angry? We mustn't allow him to join the Left Palace Master's faction," Lao Ai said. Xiao Qingfeng asked gloomily, "What should we do?" A ruthless glint flashed in Lao Ai's eyes as he said, "Of course, before the test, I'll severely injure him or kill him directly. Only then can I prevent him from entering the seasonal test." Now, many people didn't believe that Su Yu could fight Jian Wuxing to a draw. As for the upcoming seasonal exam, it would attract the attention of many people. Whether Su Yu had that kind of ability and whether the rumors were true or not, everything would depend on Su Yu's battle during the seasonal exam. Therefore, they wanted to get rid of Su Yu before that happened, so that he wouldn't be able to get on the stage and be tested by the crowd. Although they might be questioned, it would be worth it if they could get rid of the hidden danger. But killing is prohibited within the sect. So, how are we supposed to attack? Xiao Qingfeng asked puzzledly. Lao Ai smiled coldly. "Do you still need me to teach you? Didn't you already set a trap for that playboy? Now is the time to use him." Upon hearing this, Xiao Qingfeng came to a sudden realization, and a trace of ridicule appeared on the corners of his mouth. "I almost forgot about this trash. Inner sect. Master, please let me go to the outer sect. I want to challenge someone." A slim and beautiful woman knelt quietly in front of a stone door. Mo Tianxian, the strongest person in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, was in the sect. Is it the outer sanctum's disciple who fought to a draw with your mother? An apathetic voice transmitted from within the door. There is no need for that, as it was just a draw. Let's wait until someone defeats him. You can leave now. The woman hesitated for a moment, then left unwillingly. A dignified woman in a blue robe was quietly cultivating inside the stone door. All of a sudden, layers of black ghost energy appeared on her palm. If Suyu was here, he would surely recognize that it was the extreme evil ghost energy that he had absorbed. Where did that old perverted thief go? Who will get my guillotine? Mo Tianxian sighed softly. She was the woman who had disguised herself as a man, whom Suyu had saved. She was also the Red Blood Palace's ruler, Mo Tianxian. The matter of her losing the demonic path's supreme fairy artifact hadn't been publicized to the public. She had just sent people to all the great markets to inquire about it, and once they received any news, they would immediately retrieve the fairy artifact. Moreover, they still had an important mission, which was to find that old perverted thief. Whether or not they could get rid of this old perverted thief would depend on that mysterious old perverted thief. Suyu, who was completely unaware of all of this, went back to the Demon Mountain. He planned to cultivate for a while before participating in the seasonal exam. When he had just sat down in his room, a piercingly cold sword energy swept toward him from outside. Shock appeared on Suyu's face, and he immediately teleported 200 feet away, arriving in the sky outside the room. When he looked down, he saw that it was Bing Wuxin, who was holding a long sword, sweeping through his central palace. With a single strike of the sword, the whole central palace was cut in half and turned into ruins. Suyu couldn't help but get annoyed. Are you crazy? Bing Wuxin turned around and pointed her sword at Suyu, her fighting spirit surging. Suyu Xian, I want to challenge you. Suyu was baffled. Are you crazy? Why do you want to challenge me all of a sudden? I heard that you fought Jian Wuxing to a draw, so I want to challenge you. Don't worry, I will suppress my cultivation to the same level as yours. Bing Wuxin's fighting spirit was overflowing, and she yearned for a fight. Jian Wuxing? Suyu was speechless. He was just trying to practice his new technique. So how did he end up provoking trouble? Oh yeah, a couple is fighting. Hurry up and carry a small stool. Gongsun Wuxia, who was eager to see the world in chaos, giggled as she carried a stool and flew to the roof. She rested her chin on her hands and watched the fight excitedly. This commotion had drawn out by Shan Liang and Tian Rinyao. Cough, cough. You two should go outside and fight. The house has been destroyed, and we will have to sleep on the streets. Bai Shanliang coughed twice. Tian Rinyao cast a glance at Bing Wuxin. Brother Yuxian, don't be afraid. I will help you beat this woman together. We are husband and wife, and our hearts are united. What a bunch of weirdos. Blue veins popped out on Suyu's forehead. He glared at Bing Wuxin angrily. Isn't the seasonal exam just around the corner? Can't you wait for a few days? I just came back from a great battle, and if you want to take advantage of me, you can fight me now. Bah, if I, Bing Wuxin, want to fight fairly. Who wants to take advantage of you? Bing Wuxin sheathed her sword and said coldly, It's fine. My injuries are almost healed, and I will fight you in the seasonal exam. I will also settle the palm attack you used on me that day. Suyu blushed with shame. This girl still remembers the grudge from that day. TSK. How boring. Gongsun Wuxia pouted her small mouth and spoke disdainfully. Suyu was speechless as he looked at the ruined palace below. He was going to be homeless tonight. Junior brother, why don't you come to my place tonight? Bai Shanliang asked when he saw that Suyu was in a difficult position. Suyu naturally wouldn't reject him, and when he was about to agree, Tian Rinyao said angrily, Brother Shanliang, you are up to no good again. Do you want Brother Yuxian to test the poison for you? Suyu was startled, and he looked at Bai Shanliang. Nonsense. I, Bai Shanliang, have kindness in my name, so how could I test the poison on my dear junior brother? Don't speak nonsense and slander my innocence. Bai Shanliang was like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, and he shouted righteously. All of a sudden, as he waved his sleeves, many colorful bottles fell out and scattered on the ground. Suyu looked at them and saw that they all had labels on them. 5 poisons, intestines, shattering powder. Drunken life-death pill. 1 life-death pill. 9 deadly poison life liquid. Blue veins popped out on Suyu's forehead. Bai Shanliang was embarrassed. He picked up the bottles of elixirs and coughed heavily. Ahem. I forgot to vomit blood. Wah. Bai Shanliang spouted a mouthful of blood and covered his chest in panic. It's awful. I must quickly go back to rest. Ahem. After he left, Tian Rinyao said flirtatiously, Brother Yuxian, why don't you sleep with me tonight? Suyu's whole body shuddered. Get lost. Bing Wu's fighting spirit rose once again. Suyu, why don't you come to my room? Suyu felt a headache when he looked at her eyes. This woman is pretty, but why is she so barbaric? At this moment, a bell-like chuckle transmitted over. Brother Yuxian, why don't you come to my room? Wu Xie is quite obedient. Obedient? How could Suyu not understand the little demoness temperament? But, no matter how he looked at it, she was still safer than the other 3 demons. Fine, then I will disturb you, senior sister Wu Xie, Suyu said. The little demoness chuckled like a fox whose evil scheme had succeeded. It was unknown what kind of devious plan she was hatching. It was at this moment that Shui Qi came into the cave. When she surveyed the mountain, she couldn't help but be startled. Is the demon conference being held here? It's the demolition conference. Suyu pointed at his house, which had been turned into ruins. Senior sister Shui Qi, why are you looking for me? Suyu asked bluntly. Shui Qi revealed a charming smile. Can't I look for junior brother Su for no reason? After teasing him for a moment, Shui Qi said with a stern look, I came here to thank you for saving me. I'm really grateful to you. You owe ruffian Long 10,000 merit points to me. Suyu didn't forget this matter, so he waved his hand at her and said, Junior brother, you can't let others pay for the debt you owe me. I appreciate your good intentions, but it was my duty to save you. You don't need to take it to heart. Shui Qi looked at Suyu and sincerely praised him for his character. Senior sister, do you need anything else? Suyu asked. After Shui Qi came back to her senses, a solemn look appeared on her face. I want to verify whether the rumor about you fighting Jin Wuxing is true or not. It's true? Senior sister, do you also want to challenge me? Suyu felt a headache coming on. Shui Qi opened her eyes wide in surprise. It's true. After Shui Qi pondered this for a moment, her eyes lit up. Junior brother, I wonder, swoosh. Before she could even finish her words, a person rushed into the mountain. He was pacing back and forth at the entrance, but he didn't dare to enter. He surveyed the surroundings, and when he saw Suyu, delight appeared in his eyes. Brother Su, please save Shangwan Yunk. Only you can save him. Shangwan Yunk? What happened to him? Suyu asked as he looked at the person who had brought him this news. He had a slight impression of this person. It seemed like he was the Shangwan family's genius, Shangwan Fei, who Suyu had saved once in the fairy confining forest. Blood seeped out of the corners of Shangwan Fei's mouth, and there was a red palm print on his face. His clothes were also covered in dust. Brother Yunk was captured by Xiao Qingfeng, and he wants to cripple his dantian, Shangwan Fei said anxiously. Suyu was startled by this. Xiao Qingfeng? He dared to capture people in the sanctum at will and cripple their dantians? The sanctum's rules were strict, and besides the law enforcement team, few people dared to punish people in private. It's Xiao Qingfeng. A month ago, Brother Yunk vouched for 3 of his friends and borrowed 10,000 merit points from the black market at a high interest rate. But who would have expected that those 3 friends harbored evil intentions? In fact, they borrowed 100,000 merit points and ran away. Now it's time for them to repay the loan, and since those 3 scoundrels ran away, Brother Yunk will have to repay them. Vouch for them. Suyu suddenly recalled that Shangwan Yunk had once vouched for his 3 fair-weather friends at a high interest rate. At that time, Suyu had even warned him not to easily trust fair-weather friends. However, he couldn't refuse him, as he didn't want to give him face. Now, such a troublesome matter had arisen. Don't be anxious. Brother Yunk's net worth is quite high, so you should be able to pay 100,000 merit points, right? Suyu asked. Shangwan Fei smiled bitterly and said, If it was just 100,000 merit points, it wouldn't be a problem for me. But since the last month, the interest has been compounded, and now I have to pay 500,000 merit points. Moreover, I must pay it today. So, how is this possible? Compounded interest? Suyu's expression became gloomy. The terrifying thing about high interest rates was that when one paid a debt, the interest would be higher than the principal. Now, it seemed like what Shangguan Yunk had signed was a daily interest loan, which meant that the principal and interest would be calculated every day. So, after 30 days, he would have to pay 4 times the principal. Why is he so muddle-headed? Suyu shook his head inwardly. He was, after all, the young master of a great aristocratic family, and he had underestimated the black market's people. Shangguan Fei was so anxious that he almost cried. Brother Su, please save Brother Yunk. I've already sent someone to inform Sister Chinger, but she will need at least a day to rush over from the inner sanctum. By the time she arrives, it will already be too late. So, you're the only one who can save Brother Yunk. Shangguan Yunk was a loyal and righteous person, and he had treated Suyu well. Now that he was in trouble, Suyu couldn't just sit by and watch. Moreover, Suyu's intuition told him that Shangguan Yunk had probably fallen into a trap. Those 3 fair-weather friends had probably been bribed by Xiao Qingfeng, and they had set up a trap for Shangguan Yunk so that Xiao Qingfeng could easily control him. Xiao Qingfeng was really like a haunting ghost. All of a sudden, Suyu's gaze flickered. Shangguan Fei, can you tell me who told you to look for me? Shangguan Fei replied hurriedly. I heard it from a bystander. He said that you got a lot of merit points in the Elegant Spirit Mountain, and he said that you can probably lend some of them to Brother Yunk. Suyu's eyes flickered slightly, and a cold sneer appeared at the corners of his mouth. I was just wondering what a coincidence it was. It turns out that the person Xiao Qingfeng wants to deal with is me. Suyu sneered at him. The fact that he had gotten a large number of merit points in the Elegant Spirit Mountain was only known to the people involved, and it hadn't been widely spread. Yet, an ordinary passerby had coincidentally pointed out the right path for Shangguan Fei and pleaded for Suyu's mercy. It could be seen from this that Xiao Qingfeng's ultimate goal was to lure Suyu out. Don't even think of hitting me. Suyu's eyes flickered with a cold glint. This was a poisonous snake that had attacked him from behind, and he had provoked him several times. It was time for him to settle this once and for all. Where are they? Who were there? Suyu asked in a deep voice. Shangguan Fei was overjoyed. There was Xiao Qingfeng, as well as the outer sanctum's black market's people, as well as an inner sanctum's disciple. It was obvious that the inner sanctum's disciple was Lao AI, who liked to launch sneak attacks and leave a deep impression on Suyu. Chapter 822. Wait! A bright light flashed in Xueqi's eyes. She quickly chased after him and said, The right palace master's people have been too high profile in the outer sanctum recently. It seems like we must teach them a lesson. The outer sanctum isn't the left palace master's domain. You go first. I will immediately notify Ruffian Long and the others to gather the outer sanctum's black market's members. Humph. After Xueqi spoke, she quickly left. Suyu understood that Xueqi was expressing goodwill toward him, hoping that he would one day join the left palace master's camp. Suyu wouldn't reject Xueqi's good intentions. You should go with Xueqi and ask for reinforcements, while I take care of another matter. Suyu's eyes flickered as he spoke. Xueqi stamped her foot and nodded at Shangguan Fei. Let's go. Shangguan Fei was overjoyed, but he was also shocked. He knew Xueqi, as she was an inner sanctum disciple in charge of the outer sanctum's black market. It was rumored that she belonged to the left palace master's faction, and she had a high status. He did not expect that Suyu, who had only been in the outer sanctum for 2 months, would be able to get close to such a person. It seemed like Xueqi was quite polite to Suyu. Compared to the nameless kid who wanted to borrow the Shangguan clan's name to pass the outer circle's recruitment test, the difference between the two was like heaven and earth. Thank you, senior sister Xueqi, for your help. Shangguan Fei followed her gratefully and quickly went to get help. Suyu also left the Demon Mountain immediately. However, he was not in a hurry to save Shangguan Yunfei. Instead, his eyes emitted a faint silver light as he flew to the sky above the outer sanctum. If he rushed over blindly, he wouldn't be able to save Shangwan Yunk, as his opponent had the Heart's Oath scroll, and unless he took out 500,000 merit points, Shangwan Yunk would have to cripple his Dantian according to the Heart's Oath scroll. The rules of the black market were something that even the 3 palace lords of the outer sect could not deny. As such, the one who had started the trouble should be the one who had started it. Since the 3 disciples who had borrowed the money had run away, they just needed to find them and bring them back. Then, Shangwan Yunk wouldn't need to pay the debt, which would solve the problem easily. Suyu activated his soul eyes and scanned the entire outer sanctum. None of the buildings could obstruct Suyu's vision. What he needed to do was to find those 3 people. It was highly likely that those 3 people had been sent by Xiao Qingfeng to frame Shangwan Yunk, so they had either been killed or hidden by Shangwan Yunk. Suyu didn't know where Xiao Qingfeng lived, so he could only use this method to scan the whole outer sanctum. After the time it took to brew a cup of tea, Suyu had scanned half of the faction, but there were no clues about the 2 of them. An hour passed, but they still couldn't find any movement. Even after 2 hours had passed, and Suyu had searched the entire faction, there was still no sign of the other party. Could it be that they have already been silenced, or have left the faction? Suyu's heart sank, but when he thought about it carefully, he realized that it was impossible. Although Shangwan Yunk had been careless and had been deceived, he wasn't stupid. So, how could he not have known that the 3 of them had left the sect? Hence, they must be within the faction. As long as they were not dead, they must be hiding somewhere that even Suyu's soul eyes could not see. In the sect, there was only one place that the soul eye couldn't penetrate other than the residences of the 3 palace masters. Phantom Battle Room. The illusory fighting room's isolation conditions were the best in the outer sanctum, and even though Suyu had caused a great commotion in it, not even the slightest bit of demonic energy leaked out. As he thought of this, Suyu flew out of the fighting room. When he was about to enter it, he suddenly saw a person. He had some impression of this person. His name was Second Tiger, and he used to be Ruffian Long's subordinate. Later on, he had defected to Xiao Qingfeng's side and helped to manage the outer sanctum's black market. Suyu clearly remembered that Shangwan Yunk and his 3 fair-weather friends had borrowed money from Second Tiger. Before he entered the fighting room, he looked around vigilantly. It was only after he ascertained that no one was following him that he entered the fighting room and went to the illusory fighting room's door. He used a hand signal and knocked on the door 3 times. It was only then that the stone door was opened, and a vigilant face was revealed. It was none other than one of Shangwan Yunk's 3 fair-weather friends. "Senior Brother Yang, you have come." The person was vigilant and cautious. Second Tiger Yang furrowed his brows and scolded him in a low voice. "I told you not to show your face. Go inside and discuss it with me." As a creaking sound echoed out, the group of people entered the stone door. The illusory fighting room was protected by a powerful formation, and Suyu's soul eyes couldn't penetrate it. Hence, he couldn't see what was happening inside, so he could only wait patiently outside. In less than half a cup of tea's time, Second Tiger Yang pushed open the stone door and came out. After Second Tiger Yang left the illusory fighting room, Suyu's eyes flickered. He didn't continue staring at the stone door, so he turned around and followed Second Tiger Yang. Second Tiger Yang had chosen a remote path on purpose to hide his tracks. The more he walked, the more remote he became, until he reached a desolate land. All of a sudden, Second Tiger Yang furrowed his brows and turned around coldly. "Your Excellency, you have been following me for so long, so you should have had enough." A white-haired old man walked out of a corner, clasping his hands behind his back. Suyu wasn't surprised that he had been discovered, as he didn't try to hide himself. "Suyuxian." Second Tiger Yang's pupils contracted, while panic flickered in the deepest part of his eyes. However, he quickly calmed down and snorted coldly. "Why are you following me? What we black markets people hate the most is being followed." Suyu replied calmly, "What does it matter to me whether you hate it or not? I have some questions that I want to ask you, and I hope that you can give me a satisfactory answer." Second Tiger Yang turned around, crossed his arms in front of his chest, and said coldly, "Speak." His aura was quite imposing, and it was enough to scare ordinary Outer Sanctum disciples. After all, he was a level 6 fairy. "I just want to ask you whether those 3 people are still alive," Suyu said calmly. Second Tiger Yang's pupils contracted, and he scolded him. "What nonsense are you talking about? How could I possibly kill them?" His voice came to an abrupt end as he suddenly realized that Suyu was trying to get information out of him. "What are you talking about? I don't understand what you're talking about. If you don't have anything else to say, then I'll take my leave." Second Tiger Yang turned around and was about to leave. Suyu strode forward and spoke coldly. "I still haven't allowed you to leave." Second Tiger Yang was so infuriated that he laughed. A level 3 fairy dared to bare his fangs at him? Defeating that trash, Shaoli, has given you too much self-confidence. Second Tiger Yang sneered coldly as he looked at Suyu like he was looking at an idiot who overestimated himself. It was a pity that if he knew why Shao Qingfeng was determined to get rid of him, he wouldn't be able to laugh. Suyu had managed to fight Jin Wuxing's phantom image in the illusory fighting room to a draw, which was enough to prove that Suyu's fighting prowess was shocking. "It seems like I need to teach you a lesson about the disparity in power." A blue radiance appeared on Second Tiger Yang's head, and it seemed like a giant elephant, which possessed an explosive power. "Barbarian elephant flattens the earth." Second Tiger Yang shouted in a low voice, while the giant elephant, which had appeared on his head, charged at him. Each of its steps contained 6 elephants and a half's power. Suyu wasn't afraid of it, and he just clenched his right fist and thrust it at Second Tiger Yang. Splutter. The giant elephant's phantom image, which seemed powerful, was torn apart like a piece of paper. Moreover, his fist didn't lose any of its power, and it went straight for Second Tiger Yang's chest in front of him, who was overwhelmed with shock. Splutter. The power entered Second Tiger Yang's body and sent him flying away, while a mouthful of blood gushed out of his mouth. As a thump sound echoed out, Second Tiger Yang's eyes became filled with shock as he asked, "How could your fleshly body be so powerful?" Suyu was just a trifling level 3 fairy, yet his fleshly body was far above his own. Suyu didn't speak any superfluous words, and he just stamped his foot on Second Tiger Yang's chest, while he surveyed the surroundings calmly. "There's no one here, and the scenery here is quite beautiful. So, you probably won't have any regrets if you die here." "Wait, we don't have any feuds, so why do you want to kill me?" Second Tiger Yang's thoughts raced. Suyu replied calmly, "You really don't have any feuds with me, and if you want to hate someone, you should hate yourself for following the wrong master." Suyu exerted his power on his foot, while he wanted to crush Second Tiger Yang to death. Second Tiger Yang was terrified, and he felt like he was about to die. He said hurriedly, "Wait, don't kill me. You can have anything you want." Suyu loosened his foot slightly and asked coldly, "I will ask you once again, are those 3 people dead or alive?" Fright appeared in Second Tiger Yang's eyes, and he clenched his teeth hesitantly before he said, "I already took Senior Brother Shao's orders and killed them." As he spoke, he raised his index finger, and 3 badly mangled corpses fell out of his ring. Suyu's heart sank as he wondered, is it already too late? Shao Qingfeng is so ruthless, and he surely wouldn't spare their lives. Now that the 3 of them were dead, all of the responsibility would fall on Shangwan Yang's shoulders. Unless he took out 500,000 merit points, he wouldn't be able to save Shangwan Yang. All of a sudden, Suyu's eyes flickered, and a mysterious smile appeared on his face. He looked at Second Tiger Yang once again and chuckled. "Do you want to keep your life?" Second Tiger Yang's heart was in his throat, and he nodded like a chicken pecking at grains. "Junior Brother Su, what do you want me to do? Please instruct me." Traitors didn't have any loyalty, and since he could betray Ruffian Long, he could also betray Shao Qingfeng. "I don't need you to do anything, just relax your mind," Suyu said. Second Tiger Yang hesitated for a moment, but as he faced Suyu's gaze, he decided to relax his mind. A silver-gray light beam shot out of Suyu's eyes and entered Second Tiger Yang's soul. An intense pain appeared on Second Tiger Yang's face, and his eyes became blank. He stood respectfully behind Suyu like a puppet. Chapter 823. The Outer Sanctum's Plaza was the favorite place for the Outer Sanctum disciples, apart from the fighting rooms. It was the black market. Not only were there loan sharks there, but there were also black merchants selling all kinds of items of unknown origins. Elixirs, cultivation techniques, magical treasures, and even all kinds of information could be bought there. Everything could be bought there, except for assassination, theft, and human trafficking, which were prohibited by the Sanctum. The black market that day was more lively than usual, as one of the great black market's factions was going to carry out an extremely cruel task. They were going to cripple a disciple who owed them merit points. Such a matter hadn't occurred for a long time, as they would usually sign a cruel hard oath scroll when borrowing money. If they didn't repay the debt in time, they would have their cultivation crippled according to the hard oath scroll. The Outer Sanctum would turn a blind eye to this matter and wouldn't interfere in it. They would only warn the others to be careful when borrowing money. Those whose cultivations were crippled couldn't stand among the Sanctum's disciples, and they would either be reduced to serving the Outer Sanctum's disciples or leave the Sanctum. Moreover, if they had enemies, they wouldn't even dare to take half a step out of the Sanctum, as they were afraid of being hunted down. Their miserable fates were enough to serve as a warning to those who came after them. This was why no one dared to borrow money rashly for a long time, as most of the borrowers were confident in paying off their debts. Now that such a matter had occurred again, how could they not pay attention to it? This was especially the case since the person whose cultivation was about to be crippled was a disciple of the Shangwan family. Shangwan Yunk. The Shangwan family was the second greatest faction apart from the 18 great factions. Even the young master of such a faction couldn't avoid the dreadful consequences of breaching his contract. The plaza was packed with people, all of whom were surrounding the central region. Xiao Qingfeng was leading 50 disciples with good cultivations. The weakest among them was a level 3 fairy, while the strongest was a level 7 fairy. Most of the Outer Sanctum disciples recognized their faces, as they were all members of the black market, and they were in charge of nearly half of the black market. Now, they were all gathered behind Xiao Qingfeng, and it seemed like a gang meeting was being held. 2 level 7 fairies were guarding a well-dressed youth, whose face was covered with bruises. His hands were tied behind his back, and he was tied to a cross. I remember Shangwan Yunk. He's obviously already training in the Inner Sanctum, but he still likes to roam around in the Outer Sanctum. He spends all day calling his friends to buy wine for him. I never expected that he would end up in such a situation. I know, right? He used to be such a glorious man, with an illustrious family background and an endless amount of meritorious services. Too bad, he offended the wrong person. No matter how strong the Shangwan clan is in front of the right palace master, they're just like a mantis trying to stop a chariot. What is a family? His sister, Shangwan Qing'er, is a registered disciple of Palace Master Mo. In the end, didn't the right palace master still dare to attack her brother? Sai, who asked Palace Mistress Mo to not manage the affairs of the clan for the past 100 years. The left and right palace masters are actually in charge of all the affairs of the clan. They're the ones who are truly in power. If it were Mo Tianxuan's last disciple, the left and right palace masters would not dare to make things difficult for him. However, I'm afraid that a registered disciple would not have such deterrence. The so-called nominal disciple was often just a title. It was very prominent in the eyes of ordinary people, but in the eyes of insiders, it was nothing. Shangwan Qing'er was Mo Tianxuan's registered disciple in name, but in reality, she had only seen Mo Tianxian a few times. Some of them were gloating over Su Yu's misfortune, while some of them were sighing. Xiao Qingfeng waited patiently, while a mocking smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. He wanted to see whether Su Yu would come to his rescue or not. It would be best if he could come up with a way to start conflict, as Lao AI would surely kill Su Yu amidst the chaos. Crash! All of a sudden, a commotion arose among the crowd, and they all made way for a group of people. A large group of people separated the crowd like a wave, and their leader was a sloppy person. He was followed by 50 or 60 people, who were emitting intense, killing intent. Ruffy and Long, they also came here. The crowd was surprised. The right Palace Masters Black Markets members were supposed to execute those who violated the rules. So why did the left Palace Masters people come here to cause trouble? The Black Markets members from both sides usually occupied half of the Black Market, and they rarely fought against each other. This was because the Outer Sanctum's rules forbade large-scale fights. Now that they had suddenly appeared, the crowd found it unimaginable. Xiao Qingfeng was startled by this, and he raised his brows slightly. Why did you come here? So you didn't get to see them. Instead, he got to see a group of enemies. This was different from what he had imagined. Ruffy and Long cast him a sidelong glance and said, "Humph, is this place run by you? I can come here whenever I want, so why would I need your orders?" In terms of power, Ruffy and Long was much weaker than Xiao Qingfeng, but he still managed to fight against Xiao Qingfeng by relying on the fact that he had more people. Xiao Qingfeng snorted softly and said, "You should find someone who can talk to you. Trash like you aren't worthy of talking to me." "Is that so? So, am I worthy?" A charming and alluring figure appeared among the crowd, and many ardent gazes shot at her. It seemed like countless hungry wolves had just discovered a little lamb. Xueqi's appearance immediately attracted a great deal of attention. It's the Inner Sanctum's vixen, Xueqi. She was quite famous in the Outer Sanctum, and many disciples knew her. TSK, I didn't expect that even the Inner Sanctum's disciples would get involved in this matter. It's really unexpected. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became slightly tense. "Xueqi, what did you come here for?" Xueqi's smile was like a spring flower, and her charming aura was everywhere. She then said, "Hee, of course. I came to take young Master Shangwan away. I'm sorry, but he also owes us a debt, so before he pays us back, we can't let you cripple his cultivation." The crowd suddenly understood what was going on, and they started discussing it among themselves. It's really strange. Why would the Left Palace Masters Black Market help Shangwan Yunk? Moreover, they even mobilized all of the Black Market's members. It seems like they're going to fight fiercely. That's right. It seems like the Shangwan family didn't get a chance to curry favor with the Black Market, did they? That's true, especially since senior sister Xueqi also joined them. That woman's position in the Left Palace Masters camp isn't low, and she has an arrogant temperament. So, why would she lower herself to save an insignificant Shangwan Yunk? The crowd made many guesses. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became gloomy when he heard Xueqi's intentions. Su Yuxian is really great. He unexpectedly managed to persuade you to help him. You really think highly of him. The Left Palace Masters camp's appreciation of Su Yu exceeded Xiao Qingfeng's expectations, and this was the situation they didn't want to see. They must kill Su Yu without any delay. When the crowd heard this, they were all startled. What? Senior sister Xueqi helped Su Yuxian? Which Su Yuxian? Someone asked in confusion. You don't even know who Su Yuxian is? He's the newly advanced demon, the fifth demon, the supreme central demon. He's the terrifying man who subdued Bing Wuxian's body and heart on the first day they entered the Demon Mountain. It's rumored that Bing Wuxian became completely obedient and devoted to him after that night, and she even fought with the Raging Flame Cabinet's master on the street out of jealousy. Now that you mention it, some people have seen him enter the Raging Flame Cabinet's master's mansion for a whole month. I'm afraid that even the bewitching Raging Flame Cabinet's master has been subdued by him. So it's him. Many people were startled. Many people only knew that the Supreme Central Demon had just arrived, but they didn't know his real name. Senior sister Xueqi couldn't have also been subdued by that Central Demon, could she? Someone asked as he looked at Xueqi. Xueqi didn't care about Xiao Qingfeng's mockery. She just chuckled and said, "Of course. Since it's Su Yuxian's request, I'm willing to climb a mountain of swords or dive into a sea of flames." Crack! In an instant, the sound of people's hearts being crushed echoed out. Hateful! Not only did Central Demon steal Bing Wuxian, but he also stole the Raging Flame Cabinet's master. Now, even Xueqi has been subdued by him. He's such a B****-starred. Does he want to kill both aunt and nephew? That's right. He's too hateful. He has taken all 3 of the Red Blood Palace's famous beauties. That's more than half of them. The heavenly punishment, central demon. Just wait until I'm powerful enough, and I will beat this be****starred. Suyu had already become the common enemy of all the male Outer Sanctum's male disciples. Xiao Qingfeng, hand him over, or else I won't mind teaching you a lesson on behalf of the right palace master, Xueqi said. Ruffian Long laughed sinisterly and said, Brothers, don't attack them lightly, as you mustn't break their balls like you did last time. The crowd roared with laughter. However, at this moment, an ice-cold and disdainful shout transmitted from the crowd behind Xiao Qingfeng. Is that the case? I really want to see who dares to do so. Then a fair-skinned man, whose whole body emitted an ice-cold aura, walked out of the crowd. Ruffian Long and the others held their breaths, while their evil laughter stopped abruptly. Xueqi squinted her eyes and said, Lao Ai, you shouldn't stay in the inner sanctum for stirring up trouble in the outer sanctum. Aren't you afraid of ruining the outer sanctum's black market? Aren't you afraid of being punished by your right palace master? Lao Ai sneered coldly and said, Aren't you the same? Oomph. Lao Ai, if you don't want to cause a disturbance in the outer sanctum, then hand him over to me. Otherwise, the news of our private fight will surely spread to the inner sanctum. If the 2 palace masters learn about it, I will surely be punished, but will you be spared? Lao Ai's pupils contracted slightly. What he didn't want the most at this moment was for the outer sanctum's affairs to spread to the inner sanctum. Are you threatening me? Lao Ai squinted his eyes. Xueqi stuck out her chest and said, That's right. So, will you let him go? A cold glint flickered in Lao Ai's eyes as he replied, I will, but I will let him go after a while. As he spoke, he glanced at Xiao Qingfeng out of the corner of his eye and said calmly, It seems like Suyu is just a coward, so it's useless for him to stay. Cripple his cultivation. Xiao Qingfeng was quite disappointed as he had spent so much effort on him, yet Suyu didn't take the bait. Xiao Qingfeng walked over to Shangwan Yunk, then sneered coldly and said, Your so-called good brother doesn't amount to much. He clearly knew that you were in danger, yet he didn't even dare to show himself. It's really pitiful for you. When Shangwan Yunk heard that Suyu didn't come, he didn't seem disappointed. Instead, a relaxed look appeared on his face as he said, Brother Su already warned me that I shouldn't easily trust a fair-weather friend. It was I who tried to dissuade him, and I only have myself to blame for this. Since he didn't come, it means that he already saw through your scheme. I'm quite relieved Chapter 824. He condensed a palm wind and thrust it at Shangwan Yunk's dantian. Once his dantian was damaged, he would surely become a cripple. However, at this moment, a shout transmitted from afar, Stop! When Xiao Qingfeng heard this familiar voice, he was startled. He then curled the corners of his mouth into a cold smile as he looked at Shangwan Yunk and said, It seems like your brother isn't as smart as you imagined him to be. Lao Ai's expression relaxed slightly, while a cold glint flickered in the depths of his eyes. At the same time, he calmly retreated into the crowd and prepared to carry out his specialty, sneak attacks. If he went all out, he would be able to kill Suyu in the blink of an eye. Suyu rushed over quickly and managed to catch up in time. Then, he gracefully landed in front of Xueqi. In an instant, many pairs of eyes fell on Suyu. They all wanted to see the central demon's supreme demeanor. Xueqi's clear eyes lit up, and she approached him while wearing a stern look as she said, Junior brother Su, just tell us what to do. As long as you say it, we will follow your orders. Even if we have to fight fiercely, we will surely help you save Shangwan Yunk. Suyu was quite grateful to Xueqi. Even though Xueqi wanted to curry favor with him and would surely help him wholeheartedly, he was quite grateful to her. Senior sister Xueqi, please calm down. The eruption of a conflict is probably what they are looking forward to the most. After all, there is a rat hiding in the crowd, ready to fish in troubled waters at any moment. Suyu revealed a mocking smile. Isn't that right, senior brother Lao Ai? He had locked on to Lao Ai even before he had descended, so he could observe his every move. So, How could Suyu not guard against this man's habit of launching sneak attacks? Well, where is he? It was only now that Xueqi noticed that Lao AI had hidden himself in the crowd. If Suyu hadn't warned her, Lao AI would have been able to launch a sneak attack at any one of them. Many disciples laughed inwardly when they heard this. They had all heard about Lao AI's character. A moment ago, he was still in front of them, yet in the twinkling of an eye, he had hidden himself in the crowd. They were all aware of what he was planning. Lao AI's expression became gloomy. Since he had been seen through, he didn't have any chance of launching a sneak attack. So, he could only fight him openly and accidentally kill him. Lad, why did you come here? You want me to release Shangwan Yunk? You don't have the right to order me. Lao AI spoke coldly. He was ready to fight at any moment. Once he started fighting, he would immediately use his full power to kill Suyu. Even from a great distance away, Suyu could feel Lao AI's intense, murderous intent, which had already locked onto him. Suyu couldn't help but sneer inwardly. This shameless guy really has the intention to kill me. Hee, I didn't order you to let him go. I just wanted to ask you some questions. Suyu clasped his hands behind his back and spoke calmly. Coupled with his charming appearance, he looked like a celestial being. Lao AI narrowed his eyes. If you have anything to say, just say it. Suyu revealed a faint smile and said, I just have 2 questions. First, Shangwan Yunk is just acting as a guarantor. So if those 3 people come back, should Shangwan Yunk look for them instead of Shangwan Yunk? Lao AI's eyes flickered, and he looked at Xiao Qingfeng. It was only when Xiao Qingfeng shook his head that he regained his composure. According to the rules, if those 3 people come back, then we should look for them. It doesn't matter if they act as guarantors or anything. However, it seems like they didn't come back. Suyu still wore a faint smile. Second question, if it is discovered that those 3 people join hands with someone to harm Shangwan Yunk, then how should we deal with them? Lao AI and Xiao Qingfeng were startled, and their gazes flickered. They didn't reply immediately. It seems like they can't answer me. Senior Sister Xueqi, can you help me answer them? Suyu asked. Xueqi's bright eyes flickered. She knew that Suyu had found the crux of the matter, so she looked at Lao AI and Xiao Qingfeng and sneered coldly. According to the black market's rules, anyone who dares to join hands to harm a guarantor will have his cultivation crippled. After all, no one will dare to act as guarantors in the future, which will affect our black market's business. Suyu nodded, then looked at Lao AI and Xiao Qingfeng and asked calmly, Did you hear that? Xiao Qingfeng snorted coldly. Why are you telling us this? Unless you can find proof, Shangwan Yung's cultivation will be crippled. At some unknown time, Lao AI had already retreated to Shangwan Yung's side. He then said coldly, We have already wasted enough time. Since Shangwan Yunk is a guarantor, and he can't pay back his debt of 500,000 merit points, then he must be punished. As he spoke, he was about to thrust his palm at Suyu, while his gaze was fixed on Suyu. He had stirred up the situation on purpose so that both sides would start fighting and create chaos. Just when he was about to thrust his palm at Shangwan Yunk, a shout transmitted from a distant place. Senior Brother Xiao, Senior Brother Lao, those 3 people have already been killed according to your orders. A tall and sturdy man shouted at the top of his lungs from afar. His voice reverberated through the whole plaza. All of a sudden, the noisy plaza became deathly silent. The crowd was startled, and they all looked at each other in dismay. That's Second Tiger Yang. It's him. The crowd quickly recognized Second Tiger Yang. His status was similar to Ruffian Long's, so everyone in the black market knew him. However, his words were really shocking. Lao AI and Xiao Qingfeng were startled, and their expressions changed drastically. Lao AI cast a sidelong glance at Xiao Qingfeng and shouted coldly, What kind of idiots are your subordinates? Xiao Qingfeng's face became flushed, and he tapped the ground with the tip of his foot, flew over, grabbed Second Tiger Yang's arm, and asked in a deep voice, Are you crazy? However, Second Tiger Yang didn't keep a low profile, and he shouted loudly, Senior Brother Xiao, I didn't say anything wrong. Did you ask me to kill those 3 junior brothers who asked Shangwan Yunk to be their guarantor? Here, I brought their corpses with me. Second Tiger Yang waved his hand, and the three corpses fell from his ring. It seemed like they were the three disciples who had run away. It's them. I recognized them. I saw them ask Shangwan Yang to be their guarantor in front of Second Tiger Yang, so that they could borrow merit points. A disciple cried out in alarm. When the crowd saw the three dead people, they all went into an uproar, and many shocked and enlightened gazes looked at Xiao Qingfeng. Second Tiger Yang, what nonsense are you talking about? If you speak another word of nonsense, I will send you to the law enforcement team. Xiao Qingfeng became anxious, as he couldn't understand why Second Tiger Yang would say such a thing in front of so many people. But when he looked at Second Tiger Yang's gaze, he didn't seem confused at all. Second Tiger Yang continued speaking. Senior Brother Xiao, what's wrong with you? I didn't speak nonsense. At that time, you instructed me to ask Li Sang and the other two to approach Shangwan Yang and gain his trust. Then, you asked Shangwan Yang to be their guarantor in order to extort money from him. How could you forget that? The crowd immediately went into an uproar. Second Tiger Yang had unexpectedly divulged such a matter in front of so many people. As for whether he was telling the truth or not, everyone was well aware that Shangwan Yang was a fat sheep in the eyes of the black market, so it was normal for Xiao Qingfeng to set his eyes on him. Nonsense. Xiao Qingfeng was furious, and he knew that something was amiss with Second Tiger Yang. So, he grabbed his shoulder armor and revolved his vital energy to seal his limbs 100 meridians so that he couldn't open his mouth. However, when he was about to take Second Tiger Yang away, Su Yu strode forward and pushed Xiao Qingfeng away. He wore a faint smile as he said, Senior Brother Xiao, why don't you let Second Tiger Yang finish speaking? Now you're in such a hurry to pull him down. I wonder what your intentions are. How could Xiao Qingfeng not know that he had been tricked by Su Yu? Su Yu, you dare to trick me. Xiao Qingfeng's face became flushed with anger. He had always been the one who did things for others, not the other way around. Su Yu shrugged his shoulders and said, Senior Brother Xiao, I don't understand what you are talking about. You're courting death. Xiao Qingfeng flew into a rage and attacked him. This matter would surely affect the right palace master's business in the outer sanctum's black market. The lender had colluded with an outsider and tricked his guarantor. So, who would dare to borrow money from him in the future? Who would dare to be his guarantor? Moreover, Xueqi's interference would probably cause a great change in the outer sanctum's black market structure. At that time, the right palace master wouldn't spare him. He had wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to get rid of Su Yu, but he hadn't expected that he would be tricked by Su Yu. It could be imagined how much he hated Su Yu. Hee, Senior Brother Xiao, what do you want to do? A fragrant wind assaulted them as Xueqi, who was wearing a thin gown, flew over gracefully and easily neutralized Xiao Qingfeng's palm strike. Xiao Qingfeng was forced back by her attack and was infuriated. How daring! Senior Brother Lao, why aren't you? Xiao Qingfeng's heart thumped when he turned his head around to take a look. Lao Ai was nowhere to be seen. His heart sank when he saw that the situation wasn't right. Lao Ai had left him behind when he realized that the situation wasn't good for him. Xueqi was quite carefree. The outer sanctum's black market's internal strife wasn't something that had been going on for a short while. It had been going on for many years. There had never been a victor between the two sides, and she hadn't expected that she would finally see the light of day. Xiao Qingfeng, according to the black market's rules, anyone who colludes with another person to harm their guarantor will be punished by having their cultivation crippled. No one can escape this punishment. Xueqi's expression was ice cold. Xiao Qingfeng's face turned pale. Such rules were set by both sides, so how could he obey them obediently? You are framing me. I'm a dignified person in charge of the black market, and I can't be convicted just because you say so. We need to investigate this matter, Xiao Qingfeng said anxiously. He then shouted at the people behind him, Why are you still standing there in a daze? They understood what he meant, and they immediately rushed over and protected Xiao Qingfeng. After all, he was their big brother, and if he was killed, they wouldn't have a place to stand in the future. Xueqi sneered coldly and said, Outer Sanctum's black market's disciples, listen to me. Xiao Qingfeng has violated the rules of the black market and framed the guarantor. As such, he should have his cultivation crippled. Now, he wants to stay out of this matter. Do you agree? When the black market's members saw that they were about to suppress the other side, they became excited. We don't agree. Then, what are you waiting for? Shueqi chuckled. Ruffian Long let out a strange laugh and said, Brothers, let's charge. Let's drive away these pests and bring light to our black market. When they heard him, many of the outer sanctum's disciples rolled their eyes. How could there be light in a place like the black market? However, Xiao Qingfeng's actions were really infuriating. He had framed Shangwan Yunk and almost crippled his cultivation. Xiao Qingfeng's face turned deathly pale as he knew that the other side had an inner sanctum's disciple. So, how could they be a match for him? Everyone stopped. When the two sides were about to attack, a dignified shout echoed out. The voice didn't seem angry, but it contained a great spiritual pressure, which made everyone stop fighting. Chapter 825. As for Xiao Qingfeng, a pleasantly surprised expression appeared on his face. He hurriedly bowed toward the direction of the voice and said, I pay my respects to the Great Palace Master. Great Palace Master, please uphold justice for me. They are ruthless and vicious, and they want to cripple my cultivation. Under everyone's gazes, the three of them rode a white cloud from the depths of the outer sect. The white-haired old woman was none other than Palace Mistress Kongchan. The goateed elder was Palace Lord Hua. The two palace masters were among them, but in front of them stood a person with his hands behind his back. This person's status was clearly higher than Palace Lord Hua and Palace Lord Kongchan. He wore a navy blue martial robe and was dressed very simply, like an ordinary old man. However, his eyes were extremely sharp, as if he could see through people. As Suyu was being stared at, his blood involuntarily flowed faster. Suyu hurriedly tried to calm his chaotic blood flow. He was quite surprised, as this person's cultivation had already reached the peak of the Divine Master Realm, which was higher than Palace Master Hua and Palace Mistress Kongchan. Without a doubt, the person in front of him was the ruler of the Outer Palace, the Grand Palace Lord. There were 3 palace masters in the Outer Palace, 1 big and 2 small. Palace Mistress Kongchan and Palace Mistress Hua were both young palace mistresses, while the martial-robed old man before him was the great palace master, the person with the highest authority in the outer sanctum. Even in the entire sect, his authority was second only to the left and right palace masters, and he was ranked 3rd in the sect. As soon as he appeared, the entire square fell silent. Regardless of whether it was Shueqi's black market members or Xiao Qingfeng's black market members, they were all afraid and restless. This Grand Palace Master was famous for being stern, and his methods were extremely sharp. Upon hearing Xiao Qingfeng's tearful complaint, the Great Palace Master turned a blind eye to it. He landed on the ground expressionlessly and swept his gaze over the black market's members, who were about to start a fight. Which one of you didn't work hard to pass through the intense test and enter the outer sect? But what are you doing now? Instead of working hard to cultivate, they gathered a crowd to fight. Are you guys worthy of what you've invested? His heartfelt words touched the hearts of countless people. Indeed, the people who entered the Red Blood Palace were all geniuses who had been through many trials and tribulations. But since when did they become muddle-headed and lose their martial arts hearts? Many people lowered their heads in shame. Everyone quieted down. The Grand Palace Master looked coldly at the 2 groups of people and asked, Speak, what's going on? Before Shueqi could open her mouth, Xiao Qingfeng interrupted her. They took advantage of their power to bully me, and they even conspired together to cripple my cultivation. It was fortunate that the Great Palace Master arrived in time. Shut up. I'm asking them, not you. The Great Palace Lord glared at him coldly. Xiao Qingfeng let out a muffled groan. His blood and qi were disrupted, and he almost spat out a mouthful of blood. He was asking about the members of the black market. Ruffian Dragon was rather fearful, but he braced himself and said, We heard that a member of the black market tried to murder our guarantor, affecting our reputation. That's why we rushed over to rescue him. After the Great Palace Master heard this, he shifted his gaze and looked at the members of the black market on Xiao Qingfeng's side. What about you? Tell me the truth. He emphasized on telling the truth, so no one dared to lie. At this time, Second Tiger Yang walked over and said, Grand Palace Master, the situation is like this. He told the whole story in full detail. The Great Palace Lord listened patiently. After listening, he looked at Second Tiger Yang and said in a dignified manner, So, you didn't lie? Second Tiger Yang nodded. Yes, it's true. Xiao Qingfeng's complexion turned as pale as a sheet of paper. It was over. Everything was over. Okay, let me ask you another question, the Great Palace Master said as he looked at Xiao Qingfeng. Second Tiger Yang said, Great Palace Master, please ask me. Who controlled you? The Great Palace Master asked expressionlessly. Upon hearing this, everyone was startled. Was Second Tiger Yang controlled by someone? However, the crowd felt relieved. Second Tiger Yang's behavior was too strange, and it didn't seem like he did it willingly. However, they couldn't discern any coercion or control from his words and actions. It could only be said that the person controlling him had mysterious means. Su Yu was startled, as he had been seen through by the Great Palace Master. Second Tiger Yang was confused. Great Palace Master, what do you mean? He was really confused, as he hadn't realized that he had been controlled by someone. The Great Palace Master squinted his eyes and said, It's a terrifying soul control technique, and the person who is being controlled by it doesn't even know it. Moreover, other people couldn't even see any traces of it. All of a sudden, Second Tiger Yang turned around and ran away without any warning. The Great Palace Master wasn't surprised by this, and as he surveyed the surroundings, he said calmly, The person controlling it is in the vicinity. I really didn't expect that our outer sanctum had hidden such an expert with a soul secret technique. As he spoke, he waved his hand, and Second Tiger Yang, who was fleeing, was captured and bound in front of the Great Palace Master. The Great Palace Master pointed his finger at him, and a bright light entered Second Tiger Yang's mind. Second Tiger Yang's whole body twitched, and a pained expression appeared on his face. It was only after 3 breaths had passed that his expression gradually became normal. He blankly surveyed the surroundings, and when his eyes regained their focus, he saw the people in front of him. Shock appeared on his face as he exclaimed, Great! Great Palace Master! Such an action was enough to prove that he had been controlled for a while. Do you remember who controlled you? The Great Palace Master surveyed the surroundings and observed everyone's expression. Second Tiger Yang shook his head blankly. I don't remember. It seems like my memory of coming out of the fighting room was erased. Su Yu rejoiced inwardly, as he had erased his memory of Second Tiger Yang before he used the soul control technique on him. He had done it just in case, and he didn't expect that it would really be put to good use. The Great Palace Master didn't notice anyone's expression, so he spoke calmly, I don't care who you are, but since you dared to control an outer sanctum's disciple and cause trouble in the outer sanctum, I won't let you off easily. Su Yu's heart shuddered, as he didn't expect that the Great Palace Master would be lured here. This person was so powerful that Su Yu was quite wary of him. The Great Palace Master averted his gaze from him and swept his gaze over the 3 corpses on the ground. He then looked at Second Tiger Yang and asked, Did you really kill them? Second Tiger Yang's heart thumped, and he shook his head subconsciously. But when he met the Great Palace Master's eyes, his whole body shivered, and he lost the courage to lie. After he struggled for a moment, he knelt on the ground and begged, Great Palace Master, please forgive me. It was Xiao Qingfeng who ordered me to do this, and I didn't want to do it. Okay, explain this matter clearly. The Great Palace Master didn't let his emotions show on his face. Second Tiger Yang told him everything in detail, and it was exactly the same as what he had said when he was being controlled. Although he was being controlled, so you didn't ask him to tell any lies. Everything he said was the truth. It's actually true. I thought that he was being manipulated by someone to slander Xiao Qingfeng. It turns out that it's all true. Everyone was quite shocked. No one could lie in front of the Grand Palace Lord. Xiao Qingfeng's relaxed heart turned into an ice sculpture again. The Grand Palace Lord's expression was calm as he looked around at the crowd. Everyone was also secretly looking forward to the Grand Palace Lord's punishment. A despicable person like Xiao Qingfeng must be severely punished to appease the masses. From now on, the right palace master's people are not allowed to open black markets in the outer sect. Violators will have their cultivation bases crippled. The Grand Palace Master slowly said, enunciating each word clearly. Hearing this, everyone's expression changed. In other words, the first Palace Lord wanted to offend the right Palace Lord. Su Yu's heart shuddered as he thought, what great boldness! The right Palace Master has been managing the outer sanctum for many years, but the great Palace Master has always turned a blind eye to it. Now that Xiao Qingfeng poisoned an innocent disciple, Shangguan Yunk, and angered him, he wants to drive him out of the outer sanctum. Xueqi and the others were pleasantly surprised. This was an unexpected surprise. The outer sanctum's profits weren't any less than the inner sanctum's. After all, there were many outer sanctum disciples, and their profits were 10 times greater than the inner sanctum's. Thus, the black market's business was quite prosperous. Now that the right palace master's black market had been driven out, the outer sanctum would fall under the left palace master's control. Since Xueqi was the leader of this operation, she would surely get a great reward. As for you, take this as a warning. The great palace master's tone changed as he looked at Xueqi and the others. It's fine for you to open a black market in the outer sanctum, as it is necessary for it to exist. But if you dare to harm an outer sanctum disciple for your own selfish reasons, then get lost. His stern warning made Xueqi's heart shudder. She quickly said, Great Palace Master, you can set your mind at ease. Even thieves have their own principles, and we won't commit crimes. The Great Palace Master nodded slowly, then looked at Xiao Qingfeng with an ice-cold gaze. You have disgraced the outer sanctum. He then added, in 5 days during the seasonal exam, you will go up to the stage and fight against Su Yuxin. If you win, I will let you off. But if you lose, I will take your life on the spot. The crowd looked at each other in dismay, then looked at Su Yu. They were all confused. Does the great palace master know Su Yu? Even Su Yu was startled by this, and he wondered, did the great palace master already realize that I'm the one controlling second Tiger Yang? However, it doesn't seem like it. But why does he want me to fight against Xiao Qingfeng? Why does he want me to decide his life and death? Xiao Qingfeng is someone who will soon die, so he will surely counterattack fiercely like a cornered beast. Could it be that I offended this old man by accident? But this is my first time meeting the great palace master, so how could I have offended him? He looked at Palace Master Kong Chan and Palace Master Hua, who were behind him, and they both averted their gazes. They didn't dare to look at Su Yu, and it seemed like they were quite helpless. Fine, this matter has come to an end. As for how to deal with the main culprit, Xiao Qingfeng, will be decided in 5 days. As the great palace master left with his people, the people in the plaza also left excitedly. They all went back and told each other about what had happened in the plaza. As for the right palace master's black markets members, they all wore unsightly expressions as they left one after another. As for Ruffian Long and the others, they were overjoyed and went back to prepare a celebratory feast. Junior Brother Su, we must really thank you this time. You helped the left palace master get rid of the outer sanctum's great enemy. If the left palace master knows about this, he will surely reward you handsomely. Xueqi's face was flushed, while her eyes shone with splendor. Su Yu's luck was astonishing, as he always had great luck befalling him. From the time he discovered the ghost in the elegant spirit mountain and exposed Manor Master Zhang's identity as a ghost, to the time he managed to get rid of the right palace master's black market in one fell swoop. Su Yu's body was mesmerizing. It seemed like she could always witness miracles when she was with him. Su Yu shook his head and said, You probably already know that I rejected the left palace master's camp's invitation. My heart is focused on the martial path, so I don't want to manage trifling matters. Xueqi was disappointed, but she still didn't give up. It doesn't matter. As long as you can think it through, you can join the left palace master's camp at any time. I believe that the left palace master will welcome a person like you, as he is a person who cherishes talented people. So you didn't care about this. Senior sister, can I ask you a question? So you couldn't get rid of the great palace master's doubts about him. Xueqi nodded and said, "Okay, ask me. If I know anything, I will tell you everything. May I ask whether I did something wrong, or whether I offended the great palace master? Why did you send me to deal with Shao Qingfeng, who was at the end of his rope?" Su Yu was aware that such a blind question was quite childish. After all, even he didn't know how he had offended Shao Qingfeng, so how could an outsider know about it? Chapter 826. Su Yu clicked his tongue. "I don't know anything. Senior Sister Xueqi, please explain it to me." The blue veins on Xueqi's forehead throbbed, and she didn't know whether she should laugh or cry. "It's really strange. I know where you offended the great palace master, but you are the only one who doesn't know about it. I want to ask you something. Could it be that no one told you that when you entered the faction, you ran into a great calamity in the immortal confining forest?" Xueqi asked. "Big trouble?" Su Yu was at a loss at first, but he soon had an idea. Wait, it seems like someone said that before. When Su Yu had come out of the fairy confining forest, the escort elderly, had told him that he had killed a level 5 fairy realm devilish scarlet marten and had brought great trouble upon himself. He had also told him that he mustn't leave after the carp leaping over Dragon Gate's trial, as Palace Mistress Kongchan would come and talk to him alone. However, Su Yu's performance in the carp leaping over the Dragon Gate was outstanding, so the matter was left unsettled. Could it be related to this? Is it related to the devilish scarlet marten? Su Yu asked in confusion, as he still had a devilish scarlet marten's egg in his spatial ring. Xueqi couldn't help but laugh. "It seems like you still know about it." "That's right. It's because of this devilish scarlet marten that you caused a great disaster." "Oh, what do you mean? Wasn't that the Beast King of the 100 Beasts Valley in the immortal confining forest? He's just a level 5 fairy, so what's so great about killing him?" Su Yu asked in surprise. Xueqi was quite sympathetic, and she said, "Hee, the evil-eyed scarlet marten is obviously nothing. But if this evil-eyed scarlet marten is the great palace master's precious granddaughter's most beloved spirit pet, would you still think that it's nothing special? The spirit pet of the granddaughter of the Grand Palace Master?" Su Yu was speechless. The Great Palace Master's granddaughter went to the lifeless Sword Province to further her studies. The evil-eyed scarlet marten that she raised was placed in the 100 Beasts Valley of the immortal confining forest. Who knew that you would kill it? When that granddaughter returns, she will be very sad. The Great Palace Master, who loves his precious granddaughter, will definitely be heartbroken. Tell me, have you ever offended the Great Palace Master? So he was dumbfounded. Was this even possible? He felt an impulse to curse out loud. That crazy devilish scarlet marten was courting death, and Su Yu was forced to kill it. So, how did it offend the Great Palace Master? Haha, don't worry. This is just a small punishment from the Grand Palace Master. If he is really infuriated, do you think that with his temper, you would still be able to stay in the outer court? Who knows how long they've been chased away? Xueqi comforted him. "I believe that even if Shao Qingfeng wants to live during the seasonal exam, he won't dare to injure you. But you will still suffer some physical pain. This is probably the Great Palace Master's punishment for you." The corners of Su Yu's mouth twitched. He was speechless. "All right, I will go back to my aunt's place first. I will also discuss with Wei Zheng how to quickly take over the Outer Sanctum's black market. If you need any help, just let me know," Xueqi said straightforwardly. Su Yu nodded. At this moment, Shangwan Yunk, who was being supported by Shangwan Fei, bore his pain and walked over. His face was filled with shame, as he felt like he was too ashamed to show his face in front of Su Yu. "Brother Su, I didn't listen to your advice at that time, so I deserve to suffer now. It's my fault for implicating you in this matter." After Shangwan Yunk suffered such a setback, he became much calmer than before, and he seemed to have become more prudent. It seemed that this matter was not necessarily a bad thing for him. In the future, he would restrain himself from drinking and indulging in pleasures and focus his attention on the martial Tao. This would actually be a good thing for his future. Don't say such things. You were just deceived by him, and there is no need to apologize or thank you between us. Su Yu waved his hand at him and comforted him. "You should quickly go back and rest, as well as examine your injuries. Xiao Qing Feng is a treacherous person, and he might have left some hidden dangers in your body. Shangguan Fei's expression became tense. That's right, Brother Yunk. Listen to Brother Su and quickly go back. Shangguan Yunk nodded and cupped his fists at Su Yu. Then, he left with Shangguan Fei's support. When they reached a place where Su Yu couldn't see them, Shangguan Yunk suddenly stopped in his tracks, while a resolute look flickered in his eyes. Brother Yunk, what's wrong? Shangguan Fei asked. Shangguan Yunk spoke in a deep voice. Help me write a letter and send it to Qing, who is in the inner sanctum. Tell her to take out our Shangguan family's ancestral secret book, the 5 Elements Mysteries Art. Brother Yunk, why do you want to take that thing? It's a secret that has been passed down from generation to generation by our Shangguan clan's patriarchs since the ancient era. Brother Yunk, since you're going on a trip, I'll let Sister Qing take care of the patriarch for the time being. What are you going to do now? Shangguan Fei asked in surprise. The 5 Elements profound meaning skill was a secret skill passed down from generation to generation in the Shangguan clan. It was said that it had existed for tens of thousands of years. At that time, the Shangguan clan was said to be a huge power. However, as time went by, it gradually declined, and in the end, it fell apart. The Shangguan clan was just a small branch. However, this small branch of the Shangguan family had the secret treasure of the ancient era, the 5 Elements profound meaning skill. Only the core members of the family knew about it. The Shangguan family's master had originally wanted to impart it to Shangguan Yunk, but who would have thought that Shangguan Yunk wouldn't be in the mood to cultivate it? Instead, he was engrossed in having fun, so he had no choice but to hand it over to Shangguan Qing for safekeeping. This was to prevent the Shangguan family's master from suffering a mishap and losing this secret tome. I'll give it to Brother Su, Shangguan Yunk said. Hearing this, Shangguan Fei was shocked. Brother Yunk, are you crazy? This is our Shangguan clan's heirloom. How can we just give it to an outsider, let alone the patriarch? Even Sister Qing won't agree to it. Shangguan Yunk raised his head. His frivolous appearance was gone, and he now seemed wise and far-sighted. Our family is about to be destroyed, so what's the point of guarding a secret skill? It has been 100 years since the previous Jiuzhou emperor, Shun Chen, was destroyed. Calculating the time, the Jiuzhou emperor competition is about to begin again. Every time this time comes, it is the most turbulent time in the Jiuzhou continent. Countless forces will disappear in this unprecedented competition. He then added, recently, the 18 blessed and heavenly lands have suffered many mysterious attacks, and many factions have already been exterminated. Our Shangguan clan seems to be peaceful, but it's actually in a precarious situation. It's time for us to look for a reliable backer. Shangguan Fei was still confused. Brother Yunk, what you said is true. Jiuzhou has been peaceful for 100 years, but it's starting to get turbulent. Now, all factions are trying to find a backer, but can't we look for a more reliable backer? We have a secret skill passed down from ancient times, and if we get to the left and right palace masters or palace master Mo Tianqian, won't we get the protection we deserve? Brother Yunk, are you kidding me by asking Su Yu to protect our Shangguan clan? He's just an ordinary disciple, and even if he can fight people at a higher realm than him, can he fight divine masters? Shangguan Yunk shook his head and said, you underestimate him. Brother Su's power isn't as simple as it seems. Didn't you notice that anyone who opposed him didn't have a good ending? From the Xiao family's master, Xiao Yuanming, to Xiao Qingfeng, to the 2 divine masters who went to the elegant spirit mountain, none of them had a good ending. Other people may have thought that it was just a coincidence, but in my opinion, it was all done by Brother Su. He then added, moreover, if I'm not mistaken, the sole technique expert mentioned by the great palace master is surely Brother Su. I can't think of anyone else besides him who would take such a risk to control Second Tiger Yang and turn the situation around for me. He's surely that sole technique expert. So, his true power is definitely terrifying, and the Shangguan family will definitely be reliable if we hand it over to him. Shangguan Yunk's eyes lit up. Although he seemed careless, he was actually quite perceptive. Shangguan Fei hesitated when he heard this, but he still expressed his doubts. I still think that it's more reliable to hand the five-element mysteries art to great factions like the left and right palace masters and MOT Xian. You're oversimplifying things. Shangguan Yunk shook his head, his eyes flickering with a profound light. The five-element mysteries art contains too many secrets, and once we hand it over to them, our Shangguan clan won't just get protection. Instead, we'll interrogate them and even get exterminated. Otherwise, why haven't we handed it over to them in exchange for protection? This is the most important reason, as we mustn't easily hand it over to people who aren't trustworthy. He then added, as for Brother Su, based on my observation and contact with him, I can tell that he's a person who knows how to repay favors. I only took him to the Shangguan clan and gave him a pair of blue water, 9 heaven wings. Then he saved you in the fairy confining forest, and today he saved me at all costs. Based on this alone, I can tell that he's a trustworthy person. Shangguan Fei fell silent, as he was slightly moved. Suyu left the plaza and returned to the Demon Mountain. As soon as he entered the mountain, Gongsun Wuxia, who was wearing a purple-black pleated dress, came over to him with a smile. She hugged Suyu's arm and looked at him with concern. Brother Yuxian, are you all right? Suyu smiled. When he first met the little demoness, she had been this harmless, kind, and adorable black-bellied appearance. It was unknown what she was planning now. I'm fine. I'll be staying in your residence for the next few days. Sorry for bothering you, Suyu said. Gongsun Wuxia patted her chest, which was as flat as a grassland. It's all right. I'm famous for being kind and charitable. You should listen to me the other way around. Suyu shrugged his shoulders. He had a deep understanding of this black-bellied lowly. Gongsun Wuxia's residence was clean and tidy. It was spacious and comfortable, and it had 2 bedrooms. I'll stay upstairs, and you can stay downstairs, Gongsun Wuxia said. Brother Yuxian, you must be tired. I'll brew 2 cups of tea, so you can just wait here. Suyu nodded, then sat patiently at the stone table and observed the furnishings and the surroundings. Although it seemed like he was observing the place casually, he had already activated his soul eyes, which could penetrate the stone wall and observe Gongsun Wuxia. How could Suyu feel at ease drinking the tea of this black-bellied lowly? The corners of Suyu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. He saw that the little demoness had brewed 2 cups of tea in her bedroom. However, she was now holding a purple medicine bottle, and she was pouring medicinal powder into one of the cups. The little demoness was very careful, as she didn't want to come into contact with the purple medicinal powder. It was obvious that the medicinal powder was quite troublesome. Just after that, the little demoness picked up the 2 cups of tea and revealed a crafty smile. She then resumed her smiling demeanor and came out with the 2 cups of tea as if nothing had happened. Brother Yuxian, the tea is here. Gongsun Wuxia had 2 small dimples at the corners of her mouth, which made her look quite adorable. She then pushed one of the cups of tea in front of Suyu. Suyu looked at the tea and laughed inwardly. It seems like this black-bellied lowly really wanted to mess with me even before the elegant spirit mountain. Now, shouldn't I let her have a taste of her own medicine? Brother Yuxian, why are you like this? Is it because the tea doesn't taste good? Gongsun Wuxia opened her bright, gem-like eyes and asked cautiously. Suyu held the teacup with his right hand, smiled, and said, It's fine. I'll drink it, so you should drink it too. Gongsun Wuxia looked at Suyu without blinking. She drank the whole cup, then pretended to take a few sips. Chapter 827. Big Brother Yuxian, does it taste good? The little devil's round face showed a sweet smile. Suyu nodded. Yes, it's delicious. At this time, the smile on the little devil's face became more and more sweet, and her eyes gradually gave birth to a trace of profound slyness. Hee, Big Brother Yuxian. I'm sorry. I want to say sorry to you. Suyu was stunned. What do you mean? The little demon finally revealed her fangs and claws, and said with a smile, I accidentally dropped the 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder that Big Brother Shanliang gave me into the tea. Big Brother Yuxian, I'm sorry. 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder? It was said that once swallowed, one would be bedridden, unable to eat or drink for 3 months. Suyu's expression immediately became unsightly. Wuxia, Are you the one causing trouble? Bring me the antidote. If by Shanliang can refine poison, he can also easily refine antidotes, right? A thin layer of sweat appeared on Su Yu's forehead, and his face gradually turned pale. He covered his stomach with his hand, and his face was flushed. It's working so quickly. The little demoness was surprised, but a happy expression appeared on her face. She couldn't help but raise her head and burst into laughter. Su Yuxian, oh, Su Yuxian, you've finally fallen into this grand aunt's hands. Su Yu's face turned even redder. Wuxia, what do you mean? Why are you doing this to me? The little demoness clasped her hands behind her back like an adult, then proudly skipped over to Su Yu. Her face was flushed as she said, Hee hee, why should I tell you? Right now, you've been deeply poisoned. You won't be able to participate in the seasonal exam in a few days, right? I heard that the Grand Palace Master clearly assigned you to fight Xiao Qingfeng. I wonder how the Grand Palace Master would punish you if you didn't participate in the battle. Su Yu's expression became slightly gloomy. Then what do you want? Surely you won't poison me for no reason? Hee hee, you're smart. If you want the antidote, there's only one way. Give me back my privileges. The little devil revealed her true purpose. Su Yu was surprised. What privilege? The little demon crossed her arms in front of her chest and said angrily, You're still playing dumb. Let me ask you, in the 50th floor of the carp leaping over the dragon gate, did you destroy the shadow I left behind? Su Yu nodded. Yes, and getting the fish dragon badge was mentioned as a special privilege. Could be referring to this? The little demon snorted and raised his head high. He had a look on his face that said, It's good that you know. Why aren't you handing it over? What is this privilege used for? Su Yu asked. The little demon widened her eyes and tried her best to look angry. Why are you asking so many questions? Do you still want the antidote? You're going to have diarrhea soon. What startled the little demoness was that the fine sweat on Su Yu's forehead gradually disappeared, and his pale complexion became much better. Even his palm, which was covering his abdomen, gradually relaxed. You don't feel pain anymore? The little devil's eyes widened in confusion. Su Yu muttered to himself. The effects of the medicine seemed to be taking effect a little slowly. Right at this moment, the little demon suddenly froze and subconsciously covered her abdomen. She let out a soft cry and asked with a confused face, What happened to my abdomen? Su Yu's expression returned to normal, and he said with a faint smile, Of course it's because the 9 Heavens Earth Extinction Diarrhea powder has flared up. The little demon's mouth formed an O shape. That's impossible. It was clearly in your cup. How could I drink it myself? She was quite sure about the sequence of the 2 teacups, and she was sure that the one she drank was clean. You don't need to worry about that. Now, you just need to answer some of my questions. Now, it was Su Yu's turn to ask questions. The little demon realized that the situation was anything but reassuring, so she clenched her teeth, covered her abdomen, and turned around to run away. She then shouted, Sister Wuxin, save me. Su Yu wants to molest me. However, before she could even take a few steps, a hand, which was like an iron pincer, grabbed her left shoulder, while another hand covered her mouth. At the same time, Su Yu swept his foot at the door, which had just been opened, and closed it. Since the mansion was isolated from the outside world, even if the little demon screamed her lungs out, no one outside would be able to hear her. Bastard, what are you trying to do? Be careful, or I will bite you to death. The little demon turned around and gnashed her teeth. Su Yu loosened his grip on her mouth, but didn't loosen his grip on her shoulder. He then said with a faint smile, I just want you to answer several questions that I want to know. Otherwise, once the medicine's effects take effect, you will have diarrhea in front of me. Don't even think about it. The little demon's whole body shivered. She was a level 9 fairy, and her physical power and vital energy were both greater than Su Yu's. However, when she had just started using her cultivation technique, her face twitched, while beads of sweat appeared on her forehead. As the medicine's effects took effect, she felt a stabbing pain in her abdomen when she tried to use her vital energy. This was the 9 Heavens Earth Extinguishing Diarrhea Powder's power, as it could affect one's vital energy circulation. Otherwise, The poisoned person could just use his vital energy to suppress it and expel the medicine's effects from his body. So how could he be poisoned? Not only was the little demon unable to use her vital energy, but also caused her vital energy to flow in reverse, which caused all of her limbs to twitch. Her small body became soft, and she fell down. Suyu stretched out his thigh and stopped her, causing her to lie on his thigh and raise her small round buttocks high up in the air. "Ah, bastard, let go of me, otherwise I will." The little demon gnashed her teeth while brandishing her claws. Suyu chuckled and asked, "Answer my question. What's the use of the privilege of the 50th layer? Why are you so persistent in obtaining it?" He had witnessed with his own eyes that the little demon didn't hesitate to spend 100,000 merit points to challenge the carp leaping over Dragon Gate again just to get back the privilege of the 50th layer. "I won't tell you. If you don't let go of me, I will shout for help." The little demon was quite stubborn. Slap, where her voice just echoed out, but was slapped heavily. The little demon's voice came to an abrupt end, and her whole body shivered as if she had been electrocuted. Her cute face became flushed, and she was both angry and scared. What did you do to me? You dare to slap my butt." Slap! The little demon's body shivered once again as he slapped her again. Her pretty face became so flushed that it seemed like it would drip water at any moment. "You are a shameless pervert. I'm a girl." So you curled his lips and said, "You are just 10 years old, and in my eyes, you are just a child." The little demon was on the verge of tears, and she spoke angrily. "Who said that I'm just 10 years old?" Slap. However, Suyu didn't even finish listening to her, as he slapped her once again. The little demon was infuriated. "Speak. Otherwise, I will keep hitting you until the drug's effects take effect. You don't want to have diarrhea in front of me, do you?" Suyu said playfully. This black-bellied loli was always pranking others, and now it was her turn. The little demon was both angry and embarrassed, but since someone had a handle on her, she could only swallow her anger and say, "Fine, I will speak. The carp leaping over Dragon Gate has more than 50 steps, and every step has a privilege. Since you are standing on the 50th layer, you will naturally get the 50th layer's privilege. This privilege is to enter Tianya City and take up a shopkeeper's position." Tianya City? Suyu was at a loss, as he didn't know much about it. The little demoness said, "Tianya City is the border city between the 18 blessed and heavenly lands and the central prefecture. It's also the biggest trading city. There are many martial artists and peddlers coming and going from both places. The 18 blessed and heavenly lands produce all kinds of demonic beasts and natural treasures from the immortal confining forest, while the central prefecture produces all kinds of spiritual pills and magical treasures. Therefore, the trade there is very prosperous. It's known as the #1 trading city in the 18 blessed and heavenly lands, and the 18 great factions have shops in Tianya City." He then added, "The 50th layer's privilege is to enter Tianya City and work as a shopkeeper in one of the Red Blood Palace's properties. You'll be in charge of store for a month, and if your performance reaches a certain standard, you'll get 10,000 merit points as a reward. If you manage to surpass the target, you'll get even more merit points." Suyu was slightly surprised by this, so he asked, "Even if you meet the requirements, you will only get 10,000 merit points. Didn't you spend more than 100,000 merit points just to try the carp leaping over Dragon Gate's challenge? Don't tell me you're confident that you can surpass your expectations." The fact that the little fiend was so persistent meant that she was extremely confident that she would be able to obtain a reward of over 100,000 merit points. "You don't have to worry about that." Little Devil didn't explain anymore, as if there was something she was hiding. Suyu didn't question her any further, as this was her private affair, and he didn't want to delve into it. "I still have another question. You already have enough merit points, so why do you still want to obtain more?" Suyu was slightly curious. Since she needed several 100,000 merit points, could it be that the little fiend was eyeing the high-grade legendary cultivation technique in the depository of scriptures? Upon hearing this, the little fiend looked at Suyu strangely. "Don't you know that everyone is trying to accumulate merit points for the glittering jewel wonderland? The glittering jewel wonderland. So you seem to have heard Bing Wuxi mention it once. The reason she had stayed in the outer sanctum was the glittering jewel wonderland. The little fiend rolled her eyes. I really don't know how you managed to sneak into the Red Blood Palace. You don't even know about the glittering jewel wonderland. The glittering jewel wonderland is a historical remnant left behind by a Jiuzhou emperor in the past, and all of his inheritances are within it. It appears once every 100 years, and it will open in half a year. If the Red Blood Palace's disciples want to enter it, they must exchange for it with 4 million merit points. The inner sanctum's disciples and the outer sanctum's powerful people are all trying to accumulate merit points in order to enter it. I'm still short of several 100,000 merit points, so I'm looking for merit points everywhere. Sister Wuxin and the others are also doing the same, only you know nothing about it. Upon hearing this, Suyu was startled. The historical remnant left behind by the Jiuzhou emperor? All the previous Jiuzhou emperors were the strongest people in the Jiuzhou continent. They were the emperors of a generation, and they were the unparalleled heavenly kings. Such a person's cultivation had already surpassed all creations and reached an unimaginable level. In the past, Shun Yichen, the future Jiuzhou emperor, was heavily injured and on the verge of death, yet he was still able to reshape Jiuzhou and create a new world. How powerful was the real Jiuzhou emperor? The historical remnant left behind by him could even move an all creation's old monster. Suyu's heart palpitated with excitement. Such an inheritance was probably unique in the Jiuzhou continent. All the influences in the world, including the other Jiuzhou continents, are coveting it. They all want to enter it and seize the Jiuzhou emperor's imprint. It's the same for the 9 prefectures' kings. It can be said that this is a century-old historical remnant that has shaken the whole Jiuzhou continent. If someone obtains the complete historical remnant of the glittering jewel fairy emperor, it will be enough to change the continent's destiny and affect the world situation. No one will let go of this historical remnant. Suyu's heart was moved, as he knew that he must definitely go and explore such a peerless historical remnant. Suyu's intuition told him that he might get a great opportunity in the historical remnant, which would be better than cultivating quietly in the Red Blood Palace. However, when he found out that he had to exchange for it with 4 million merit points, Suyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. He only had 2,000 merit points left, which wasn't even enough to pay off his debt. It seemed like he would have to use the special authority that the little demoness coveted to go to Tianya City. Hurry up and let me go. The little demoness' face became flushed, and panic and anger appeared on her face. The medicine's power was starting to take effect, and she was about to have diarrhea. After getting her answer, Suyu let go of her. The little demoness was immediately freed, and she bent her waist and walked quickly to the toilet. As she ran, she turned her head back and glared at Suyu fiercely. Be *starred. You better remember this, as we aren't finished yet. Suyu chuckled, and when he was about to go back to his room to rest, his expression suddenly changed. Suyu surveyed his surroundings, then entered his room and closed the door and windows. He then took out a purple badge from his spatial ring. He had gotten this badge from Yuan Wanbi's personal maid, Xiao Tao, and it was the Severed Fairy Cliff's identity badge. In the past, a test mission had appeared on the badge, and it was to help the Situ family's Situ Yin enter the Red Blood Palace. So he had almost forgotten about this badge, but now it suddenly had a reaction. Not only did it emit a purple light, but it also became scalding hot and emitted powerful fluctuations. When Suyu took it out and took a look at it, he noticed that a line of small words was flickering on it. Chapter 828. Suyu's eyes lit up as he held the badge in his hand. He then took advantage of the darkness to leave the sanctum and sneak into the fairy confining forest 100 Beast Valley. Half a day later, Suyu carefully arrived at the entrance of the valley, but there was no one else there. When Suyu was just about to look around, the purple badge changed once again. It said, "The meeting place has changed. Head east for 300,000 miles. You will arrive in half a cup of tea's time." The members of the Severed Fairy Cliff are really careful, Suyu thought to himself. Then, he followed the instructions and headed 300,000 miles east. Then, the token changed its destination several times. It was only half a day later that the real meeting place appeared. Suyu followed the instructions and went back to the 100 Beast Valley's entrance. There, a man wearing a silver mask stood with his hands behind his back. Suyu had an impression of this person, as he was the masked man who had helped the Sidhu family recruit helpers. Hee lad, we meet again. The masked man had a deep impression of Suyu, so he chuckled. Suyu cupped his hands at him and said, Senior, it took me a long time to find you. I went around in circles for most of the night, yet I still ended up here. As someone from the Severed Fairy Cliff, it is only natural for one to be a bit more careful. The reason why I asked you to go in circles was to confirm whether or not you brought anyone else with you, said the masked man. Suyu sighed. Now, are you sure that I came here alone? The masked man faintly smiled. Take out the token. Congratulations on passing the test. Now, you can engrave your name on the token. From now on, you are officially a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. Suyu was curious. Why did you only confirm the completion of the mission after 2 months? It's true that you've completed the mission a long time ago. But before that, it took a lot of time to investigate your identity and background. 2 months is considered short. There are even people who have waited for 2 years. The masked man said, through the investigation, you are not from any major force. There is no problem with your identity. Now, I will carve your name. In the future, you will be under my management. Investigate his identity? Suyu's eyes flickered slightly. It seemed like the Severed Fairy Cliff hadn't found out Suyu's origins and could only confirm that he didn't have a fixed residence. Suyu took out the badge and handed it to the masked man. The masked man took out an extremely peculiar luminous pen. Suyu had only taken a casual glance at it, but his heart trembled when he saw it. The spiritual pressure emitted by the luminous brush was almost tangible. A fairy artifact's fragment? Suyu was startled. He couldn't believe that a random divine master could take out a fairy artifact's fragment. It seemed like the masked man had discerned Suyu's doubt, so he didn't even raise his head as he carved Suyu's name on it. He then said, It's just a fragment of a fairy artifact, so it's nothing amazing. If you become a blue member of the Severed Fairy Cliff, you will be rewarded with a semi-manufactured fairy artifact. A semi-manufactured immortal artifact as a gift? Suyu's heart skipped a beat. The Severed Fairy Cliff's foundation was really terrifying. How do I become a blue member? Suyu's interest in the Severed Fairy Cliff was piqued. The masked man raised his head and smiled. Haha, don't be impatient. As your manager, I will tell you in detail. After a while, the masked man threw the token back and put away the luminous pen. When Suyu looked at it, he saw that the once glossy purple badge now had the words Suyushin carved on it. This will be your identity token from now on. With this token, you can do 2 things. First, accept missions, and second, issue missions. He then added, every month, a random mission will appear in the token, and if you accept it, you must carry it out according to the token's instructions. After a while, the person who issued the mission will contact me to confirm whether the mission was completed or not. Then, I will give you the mission's reward, which includes an object reward and a senza bean for completing a mission. Suyu asked, what are senza beans? The masked man explained patiently. The reward for accepting a mission is divided into 2 parts. One part comes from the person who issued the mission, such as crystals, while the other part is given by the Severed Fairy Cliff. It's the reward for completing a mission, which is the Severed Fairy Cliff's reward, senza beans. He then added, the use of senza beans is to raise your membership level from a purple member to a blue member. This also answers your previous question. How can I become a blue member? The masked man then added, as for the amount needed to level up, it's quite simple. You need 10,000 senza beans, and you can get a senza bean every time you carry out a mission. Suyu felt like a bucket of cold water had just been poured on him. He wondered, do I need to carry out 10,000 missions to become a blue member? Are there other ways to get senza beans? Suyu asked. The masked man chuckled helplessly, then said, youngsters nowadays are really impatient. Just listen to me. The first part is about accepting missions, while the second part is about assigning missions. He then added, you can use the purple token to accept missions, and you can also use it to assign missions. The method of assigning missions is to inject a drop of your blood essence into the token, and I will sense it and guide you to a designated place to meet me. You will then have to explain the mission in detail to me, and I will assign it to the other members under my management. So you nodded slowly. Remember, every time you assign a mission, you will need to consume a senza bean, the masked man said. So you furrowed his brows. Does this mean that I can only start accumulating 10,000 merit points by accepting missions unceasingly? However, there is an exception. Moreover, not only won't you consume a senza bean, but you can also get a senza bean. The masked man's voice became heavier. It was obvious that this was an extremely important matter. I can still get a senza bean? That is, the assignment mission's reward is more than 100,000 crystals, the masked man said. He then added, for example, if you want to kill a person and assign a mission with a reward of 100,000 crystals, then you won't need to consume a senza bean. Instead, you will get a senza bean as an additional reward from the Severed Fairy Cliff. The Severed Fairy Cliff encourages its members to use large amounts of money to assign missions, so they will take 20% of the mission's reward as a commission. This is why the higher the reward, the more senzu beans you will get as a reward. If you assign a mission with a reward of 200,000 crystals, then after the mission is completed, you will get 2 senzu beans as a reward, and so on and so forth. For every 100,000 crystals, you will get a senzu bean as a reward. So you couldn't help but smile bitterly. He had to assign a mission with a reward of 100,000 crystals in order to get a senza bean. So you would have to assign a mission with a reward of 1 billion crystals in order to get 10,000 senza beans and become a blue member, then get a semi-manufactured fairy artifact as a reward. However, 1 billion crystals were enough to buy 10 fairy artifacts, right? Moreover, a semi-manufactured fairy artifact didn't seem worth it at all. Lad, don't think too much about it. I spent 200 years just to become a blue member, and I'm now in charge of the 18 blessed and Heavenly Lands purple members. It's still too early for you to become a blue member. You just need to focus on accumulating resources. Moreover, if you have a mission that you want to assign, you can leave it to me. There are countless experts among the purple members that I manage, including 10 late-stage divine masters and an all-creation expert. As long as you can pay them a price that can tempt them, they will be able to help you accomplish anything, including killing your enemies. Suyu's pupils contracted slightly. There is even an all-creation level purple member. If I ask him to be my assassin, won't I be able to kill anyone I want? The Severed Fairy Cliff's resources are really terrifying. I will follow Senior's instructions. I really want to assign a mission, but I need to wait for a while, as I'm short on money now, Suyu said. The masked man nodded slightly. Okay, tell me about it first. I can help you record it, and when you have enough crystals or money, I will officially assign it to you. Suyu then asked, Senior, if I need some real dragon spirit veins, is it possible to find them? Real dragon spirit veins? The masked man was slightly startled, and he couldn't help but size Suyu up. Are you sure that you didn't ask the wrong question? All real spirits are expensive existences, and any part of them is priceless. Moreover, a real dragon spirit veins is worth at least 10 million crystals on the market. 10 million crystal stones was an astronomical figure, even for the 18 sections. Senior, please be at ease. I have my ways to get them, Suyu said calmly. The masked man was startled, and a glimmer of hope appeared in his eyes. As the purple member manager of the 18 blessed and Heavenly Lands, he would get a 1% commission on the resources that were assigned to the members under his charge. At the same time, when his funds reach a certain amount, he would also get fairy beans, which he could use to increase his members' rank. He naturally valued members like Suyu, who might have a large amount of money. Then I will look forward to it. I will record the mission for you, and when you have enough money, I will immediately assign it to you. The masked man chuckled and became more polite. Suyu cupped his hands at him, then turned around and left. As the masked man watched Suyu leave, he muttered softly, This lad is really arrogant, and it seems like he really can get 10 million crystals. Let's wait and see whether it's true or not. All of a sudden, the masked man's waist flickered, and he took out a purple badge. Well, did someone assign a mission to you? After returning to the Demon Mountain, Suyu pretended that nothing had happened and went back to his room to cultivate. However, after he started cultivating for a short while, the purple badge emitted a sound. When Suyu took it out and looked at it, he was startled. The purple badge's mission was to find a diarrhea powder that no one can find. The reward is 100,000 crystals. Is it a little demoness? The corners of Suyu's mouth couldn't help but twitch. This little girl didn't want to give up, and she still wanted to find an even more powerful diarrhea powder. However, Suyu was quite surprised that Gongsun Wuxia was also a member of the Severed Fairy Cliff. Suyu pretended that he didn't know anything about this. For days passed in the blink of an eye, and the seasonal exam finally arrived. The Outer Sanctum's disciples were already very familiar with the routine exam, but they were all looking forward to it. This was because the great palace master had appointed Suyu to fight against Xiao Qingfeng several days ago. If Xiao Qingfeng lost, then the great palace master would take his life on the spot as a punishment for framing an Outer Sanctum's disciple. But if Xiao Qingfeng won, then he wouldn't be able to save his life. They could almost imagine that Xiao Qingfeng would fight like a mad dog in order to win. Moreover, Suyu's cultivation was just at the level 3 fairy realm. So how could he be a match for the level 8 fairy realm, Xiao Qingfeng? There was a great disparity between them. Regardless of whether Suyu was willing or not, the exam had finally arrived. Many people wanted to witness Xiao Qingfeng's fate. Suyu was one of them. After plotting against him many times, he could finally put an end to it on this day. In the secret room, Suyu suddenly opened his eyes, while a giant black dragon roared in his chest. Chapter 829. Suyuxian, come out. A soft shout was heard from outside the mansion. Bing Wuxian was holding her sword with a cold look on her face. Suyu opened the door and walked out. When he saw Bing Wuxian's attitude, he felt like something was amiss. When he glanced at her again, he saw the little demoness who was wiping her tears. She looked pitiful, as if she had suffered great injustice. What's the matter? Suyu asked. Bing Wuxian rebuked him angrily. Don't you know what you did to Wuxia? Suyu didn't deny it. I helped her try my 9 heavens earth extinguishing diarrhea powder. What's wrong with that? Is it wrong to help others? Upon hearing this, the little demoness wiped away her tears and glared at Suyu fiercely. She clenched her teeth tightly. She had been trying to hit a goose all day long, only to end up getting pecked by it. She already told me that she was in the wrong first. So, she can't blame you, Bing Wuxian said. Ugh, Suyu was bewildered. If that wasn't the case, why was Bing Wuxian so angry? I'm asking you, what else did you do to Wuxia after this? Bing Wuxian asked angrily. What else did I do? Suyu mulled it over for a moment, then replied blankly, nothing. I just interrogated her and spanked her. That's all. I was in seclusion for the past 5 days, while she was trying to detoxify herself. So, we didn't have any contact. Unexpectedly, Bing Wuxian glared at him angrily. Shameless. You spanked Wuxia's, but yet you still dare to say that it's all right? Didn't anyone teach you that men and women shouldn't touch each other? Suyu was speechless. She's just a naughty child, so what's wrong with spanking her? But you're making a big fuss over a minor issue. The little demoness clenched her fists and blushed. She then shouted angrily, You are the child. Your whole family is made up of children. Bing Wuxian was flabbergasted. She looked at Suyu for a moment before an odd look appeared on her face. Do you really not know that Wuxia is only 19 years old? Oh, 19 years old? Isn't she a child? Wait, 19 years old? Her? Suyu came back to his senses. He was startled, and he couldn't help but size up the little demoness. She had a tender little face and a flat chest that hadn't developed. All of these were the characteristics of a 10-year-old girl. Pervert. The little demoness covered her chest hurriedly and said angrily, What are you looking at? My breasts are just very reserved. Bing Wuxian said with a cold face. When Wuxia was 10 years old, she ate a mysterious elixir. That's why her body was fixed in the state of a 10-year-old. Her real age is 19 years old. So, do you think spanking her is an offense? Suyu's mind was in a mess. A 19-year-old two-faced lowly? You're my lover in name, so you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, if you ruin my reputation, I won't forgive you. Bing Wuxi knew that it was a misunderstanding, and her murderous aura weakened a lot. But she still warned him. Suyu couldn't help but curl his lips. Who would want to be the lover of a fierce woman like you? What did you say? You want to fight me now, don't you? Bing Wuxin raised her brows and asked coldly. Suyu could not stand her unreasonable behavior. Cough, cough, quarreling so early in the morning. What an enviable couple. Bai Shanliang came out of the West Mansion and said with a smile. Suyu rolled his eyes. It was this guy who had suggested it. As for Bing Wuxin, she glared at him. Fine, you should all go to participate in the seasonal exam. You might run into each other in the arena, and you can kill each other at that time. Bai Shanliang's face shivered as he was looked down upon by both of them. At this moment, a handsome man walked out of the South Mansion. He had an enchanting look on his face as he said, Humph, I will risk my life against anyone who dares to bully Brother Yuxian today. Tian Rinyao looked at Suyu affectionately as he spoke. Suyu's whole body shivered. He really couldn't understand what part of him attracted Tian Rinyao's attention. After all, he was now an old man, and he couldn't see anything special about him. Fine, let's set off. But before we enter the venue, I want to emphasize something. Bai Shanliang, who was the leader of the 5 demons, said, For many years, we, the Demon Mountain, have always been the Outer Sanctum's flag and moral model. We're all public figures, so we should pay attention to our words and actions. We mustn't affect the Demon Mountain's glorious image. Do you understand? Apart from Suyu, the other 3 demons nodded earnestly. The Demon Mountain's glorious image? Suyu was embarrassed. All of the Outer Sanctum's disciples had gathered at the venue, which could accommodate tens of thousands of people. Regardless of whether they were cultivating in seclusion all year round or carrying out missions outside, they would all rush back to participate in the seasonal assessment. This assessment was the Sanctum's way of testing the disciples' progress in the past season. If they didn't make any progress for a long time, the Sanctum might deduct their merit points. In serious cases, they might even expel them from the Sanctum. Thus, no one dared to be careless. It was an unprecedentedly grand and lively event, and there was a sea of people. It was so crowded that people were rubbing shoulders with one another. As far as the eye could see, it was filled with a dense mass of people. However, there was only one place, which was the most suitable center of the venue, which had a large number of empty seats. No one went there. A rough count revealed that there were several hundred empty seats. Compared to the dense mass of people, the empty space seemed abrupt and out of place. Suyu, who was in the middle of this empty space, was speechless. Is this the Demon Mountain's glorious image that you were talking about? At this moment, Bai Shanliang, Tian Rinyao, and Gongsun Wuxia all wore friendly smiles as they looked at the surrounding crowd. They waved their hands and shouted from time to time, Junior brothers and sisters, come here quickly. There are good seats for spectators here. Even Bing Wuxin didn't wear a cold expression, which was rare. However, the crowd's reaction was the opposite of what they had hoped for. Let's go quickly. Look at Western Poison. His smile is so sinister. He's probably going to find someone to try his newly refined poisonous elixirs. It's said that all those who were caught by him to try his elixirs didn't come back unscathed. Also, look at Eastern Heretic. He's smiling so wickedly. He must be up to no good. Everyone, pay attention and avoid him. Also, look at Southern Demon. Oh my God, he's looking at me. I must run away quickly. Damn it. I won't participate in the assessment, but I mustn't be targeted by a human demon. That's related to my reputation. Not only did they not get forgiven for their friendly greetings, but they all retreated in fright, as if they had encountered a ghost. In an instant, there were another 100 empty seats around them. Now, a tenth of the huge arena was empty. Gongsun Wuxia's sweet smile stiffened, and she clenched her fists tightly. She then said fiercely, a group of people who don't know what's good for them. After the competition is over, I will poison all of you to death. Upon hearing this, the crowd became even more horrified, and they once again moved away from each other. They would rather squeeze with each other than stay close to the 4 demons. Did you hear that? They really don't have any good intentions. They actually want to poison us to death. The demons are really too terrifying. Humph. I really don't understand why our Demon Mountain's good tradition of being kind and helpful to others is always misunderstood. Gongsun Wuxia snorted softly. That's right. It's rare for me to treat you kindly, yet you treat me like this. Aren't you afraid of hurting my feelings? Tian Rinyao spoke resentfully. Bai Shanliang coughed out a mouthful of blood and lamented bitterly. Sigh. Our Demon Mountain's glorious image. Suyu rolled his eyes. What bunch of weirdos. Dong. The sound of a bell's chime could be heard. 3 people arrived on clouds. They were the Outer Sanctum's 3 palace masters. They were the Great Palace Master and the 2 Lesser Palace Masters. After the 3 palace masters took their seats, an elder announced, the seasonal assessment will now begin. The assessment will be divided into 10 areas, and it will be carried out at the same time. They will be arranged according to the order in which they enter the sect. The host quickly made arrangements. Bai Shanliang, Bing Wuxin, Gongsun Wuxia, and Tian Rinyao were separated on purpose. Suyu was among the last batch of people to enter the sanctum, so he was randomly assigned to the 10th area. Bing Wuxin had been paying attention to Suyu all along, and when she learned that he had gone to the 10th area, she couldn't help but say coldly, "It seems like we won't get a chance to compete in the arena. Let's just go back to the Demon Mountain and have a good fight there." The seasonal assessment wasn't a ranking competition, and it was just a competition to determine whether the disciples' power had improved in the past season. The disciples of different areas wouldn't get a chance to fight each other. You're welcome to do so at any time. So you felt a headache coming on. Just after that, everyone went to their respective areas. So you found Xiao Qingfeng in the 10th area. He was being guarded by a Divine Master Realm Elder at all times, so he couldn't escape. Xiao Qingfeng was the strongest person in the 10th area, as he was, after all, ranked 10th among the Outer Sanctum's experts. What was even more unfortunate was that the person in charge of the 10th area was none other than the Raging Flame Cabinet's master, the Alluring Cabinet Master. She was still as charming as ever, and she was the center of attention as she stood in the arena. Almost 30% of the men in the area were attracted by her. All of a sudden, she saw Suyu from afar, and her eyes lit up. She cast him a flirtatious glance and sent him a message with a smile. "You heartless lad, you still haven't come to visit me in such a long time. You have really hurt my feelings." Suyu was speechless, and he wondered, doesn't this woman feel uncomfortable if she doesn't flirt with me on purpose? What made him even more speechless was that, in the eyes of the onlookers, they seemed to be exchanging flirtatious glances with each other. Many senior disciples among the 10th area's disciples were already rubbing their palms, and they were all preparing to teach Suyu a lesson. Suyu was the only one among the 5 demons who hadn't been tested by anyone yet. Many people had already set their eyes on him, and they all wanted to test him. The first test is the Vital Energy Intensity Test. The Raging Flame Cabinet's master wore a smile as she looked at Suyu, who was suffering from the crowd's jealousy. She then announced the start of the test. There was a giant stone sword in the 10th area, which had 9 sword scars carved on it. These scars represented 9 different vital energy intensities. A level 1 fairy's vital energy could only form a single sword scar, while a level 2 fairy could form 2 sword scars, and so on. As for a level 9 fairy, it could form 9 sword scars. As for divine masters, it was impossible for the sword body to detect them. This was actually a test of one's cultivation, as different cultivations determined different cultivation intensities. The crowd tested their vital energy intensities according to the order in which they entered the test. Some people's vital energy intensities were quite outstanding, and one of them was Xiao Qingfeng. The onlookers only knew that his cultivation was at the level 8 fairy realm, but after they tested him, they discovered that his vital energy was almost at the level of 9 sword scars. The test results were quite shocking. Great Palace Master, it's really a pity for Xiao Qingfeng. If he hadn't made a grave mistake, he might have been a good seedling in the future. Pity flickered in Palace Master Hua's eyes. Palace Mistress Kong Chan nodded slightly, as she agreed with his words. However, She was more concerned about Su Yu, as he would probably be in grave danger in this battle. Let's wait and see, the great palace master said calmly. Chapter 830. Su Yuxian come up. The alluring cabinet master's eyes were filled with curiosity as she looked at Su Yu. She really wanted to know what Su Yu's cultivation level was, and she wanted to know whether he was just a level 3 fairy realm cultivator. After all, he was someone who could fight Jian Wuxing, who was at the same cultivation level as him, so he shouldn't be an ordinary person. Xiao Qingfeng's expression was quite relaxed. Even if Su Yu managed to fight Jian Wuxing, who had the same cultivation level as him, Xiao Qingfeng was still a level 8 fairy, and there was a great disparity between their power. In his opinion, the Grand Palace Master had intentionally spared his life. What's there to see? It's almost 3 sword scars. In the spectator seats, there were a few people dressed differently. They were either outer sect elders or inner sect disciples who came to watch the battle. Lao Ai and Wei Zheng were among them. The two of them represented the right palace master and the left palace master to find new disciples with potential and pull them into their camps. The rumor that Su Yu had fought Jian Wuxing, who was at the same cultivation level as him, had spread like wildfire. So they naturally paid close attention to Su Yu. At the same time, there were also some people with mysterious backgrounds who were quietly observing Su Yu. Is this the rumored outer court disciple who fought Jian Wuxing to a draw? You're really just a level 3 fairy, a fair-skinned, arrogant woman said as she looked at Su Yu. Next to her was a smiling young man. Junior Sister we're here on Junior Sister Bing's orders to test out this outer sect disciple. Now is the time to observe. If he doesn't even qualify for us to make a move, it will save us the trouble. Is there still a need to look? As a matter of fact, Junior Sister Bing was just too sensitive about Jian Wuxing. After all, he was just a trifling level 3 fairy. Just by looking at the true chi strength test, we can see some clues. Junior Martial Sister, he was somewhat disdainful. The smiling youth took a deep look at Su Yu, then said profoundly, I feel that this lad most likely has something outstanding about him. The vital energy intensity assessment might surprise us. Oh, how much could his Jinqi reach? Junior Martial Sister, he shook her head disapprovingly. The smiling youth said, I don't think that's necessarily the case. This lad's vital energy's intensity is probably close to the level 4 fairy realm. It's only because of this that he might be able to fight Jian Wuxing, who was at the same level as him. Junior Sister, he frowned, but did not say anything. On the bench, Palace Mistress Kong Chan and Palace Mistress Hua also fixed their gazes on the 10th region. This lad's vital energy's intensity shouldn't be low, Palace Master Hua said with a smile. If it's close to 3.5 sword strikes, it'll be pretty good, and after cultivating for a while, he'll be able to advance into the level 4 fairy realm. Palace Mistress Kong Chan nodded slowly. I also believe that it can surpass 3.5 sword strikes. Upon hearing this, the great palace master looked at Su Yu and shook his head slightly. You have all underestimated him. The intensity of his vital energy isn't just 3.5 sword strikes. It's probably close to 4 sword strikes. The two young palace masters were slightly surprised. In that case, he won't be far from reaching the level 4 fairy realm. In just 2 short months, he managed to advance from the level 1 fairy realm to the level 4 fairy realm. His cultivation speed is really fast, and he's almost catching up to the inner sanctum's top freaks. At the same time, the ordinary disciples also looked over. After all, the strength of the newly advanced central demon was still a mysterious unknown. Moreover, there was a rumor that he had fought Jian Wuxing, who was at the same cultivation level as him, which made people even more curious. On the stage, Su Yu, who was in front of the sword body, pondered this matter. It seemed like he didn't need to use his whole vital energy, and if he hit a part of his power, he could use it to threaten Xiao Qingfeng. Just as he was about to suppress his vital energy and hide his power, the alluring cabinet mistress's eyes flickered. She then said, The examinees must remember to use their whole power. The sword body senses are quite sharp, and if it detects that the examinee is hiding something, it will sound an alarm, and the examinee will be disqualified from the exam on the spot. You will have to face the wall and reflect on your mistakes for a year. Suyu raised his brows. There was such a rule. It was no wonder that all the people in front of him used their whole power. He had 2 dantians, so if he used just one of them, could the sword body detect it? After Suyu mulled this over for a moment, he gave up on taking such a risk. He gathered the vital energy in his 2 dantians, condensed it into his right fist, and punched the sword body. Buzz! 3 sword marks immediately shone, which proved that Suyu's vital energy had reached the level 3 fairy realm. However, the sword mark's radiance didn't stop, and it continued rising. Xiao Qingfeng snorted softly. I really didn't expect that your vital energy would be so pure. It will soon reach 3.5 sword strikes, as his voice echoed out. The radiance overcame the 3.5 sword strikes and advanced toward the 4th sword strike. His vital energy's purity might be close to the 4th sword strike. Xiao Qingfeng was slightly surprised by this, as he recalled that Suyu had just advanced to the level 3 fairy realm before he came back from the Elegant Spirit Mountain. So, how did he manage to reach the level 4 fairy realm in just a few days? After a short while, the radiance reached the level 4 fairy realm's threshold. Junior sister He, who was among the spectators, nodded calmly. Senior brother Lu really got it right. He will soon reach the level 4 fairy realm. But even then, it's still impossible for him to fight Jian Wuxing, who has the same cultivation level as him. Surprise appeared on the faces of Palace Mistress Kong Chan and Palace Mistress Hua. This lad's cultivation speed is too fast. The great Palace Master looked at Suyu and nodded slowly. It can't be wrong. He will soon advance to the level 4 fairy realm. Huh, wait, what's going on? At the same time, the whole spectators were bewildered, and many of their gazes were fixed on the sword body. This was because the radiance didn't stop there. Instead, it went straight past the 4th sword mark. What's going on? Suyu's cultivation is obviously at the level 3 fairy realm. So how can his vital energy reach the level 4 fairy realm? Someone cried out in alarm. The intensity of one's vital energy was a sign of one's cultivation. When the Dantian's vital energy reached a certain level, it would give rise to a great pressure, which would cause the Dantian to be unable to bear it. As such, the Dantian would expand, which meant that one's cultivation would rise by a level. However, it didn't make sense that Suyu's vital energy, which was at the level 4 fairy realm, wouldn't expand in response. Could it be that his Dantian was innately different from ordinary people's, which was why it didn't expand? Shock appeared on the faces of the 3 palace masters, while the 2 lesser palace masters were baffled. This was the first time they had seen such a strange matter. The great palace master muttered to himself, "It's really strange. Could it be that his Dantian is bigger than ordinary people's and can contain more vital energy?" It couldn't be denied that the great palace master's guess was close to the truth. However, he was bewildered when he discovered that the radiance didn't stop there. It continued rising, and it went straight past the 5th sword mark. Impossible! Xiao Qingfeng was startled. How could a level 3 fairy realm possibly contain a level 5 fairy realm's vital energy? Was his Dantian twice as big as an ordinary person's? If that was really the case, wouldn't it mean that Suyu only had his Dantian? Unless he wasn't a human, it was surely impossible. An uproar broke out among the crowd, as Suyu's nature-defying Dantian was shocking. The great palace master was also startled, as he didn't know what was going on. A human's Dantian couldn't possibly reach the size of 2 fists. This question lingered in everyone's minds for a long time. In the audience's seats, the smiling youth couldn't help but laugh. He's really an unconventional existence. Now, I believe that the rumors are true, and that he fought Jian Wuxing to a draw. Junior sister, he snorted coldly. Even a level 5 fairy realm's vital energy can't defeat a level 3 fairy realm's Jian Wuxing. Let's continue watching. After all of the region's tests had ended, the 10th region was the most surprising one. Central Demon Supreme, who everyone was paying attention to, had astonished everyone with his outrageous vital energy's intensity. The second test will be the body constitution test. The alluring cabinet mistress's eyes lit up as she looked at Suyu. The body constitution test mainly tested one's fleshly body's power. When martial artists they cultivated their vital energy internally while they cultivated their fleshly body externally. This test was obviously extremely important. The fleshly body test was quite simple, as they were just required to carry cuboid stones. Each stone was only the size of a fist, and they were specially made by the sanctum. A level 1 fairy could only lift 10 of them, even if he used his whole power. In other words, lifting one would require 1/10 of an elephant's power. This way, the examinee's power could be accurately measured. The 10th region's tests quickly started. Unlike the vital energy's intensity, one's fleshly body's power wasn't limited by one's cultivation. Some people who were accomplished in body refining techniques had shocking fleshly bodies. Many disciples with good fleshly bodies appeared in the 10th region. One of them was a level 7 fairy realm outer sanctum disciple, yet he managed to lift 81 stones. This meant that his fleshly body's power had reached 1/10 of an elephant's power, which was even greater than an expert who had just advanced to the level 8 fairy realm. Only a level 8 fairy realm's fleshly body's power could reach 8 level 8 fairies' power. This person's appearance attracted the attention of many disciples. The other person, Xiao Qingfeng, also attracted a lot of attention. His cultivation was close to the level 9 fairy realm, and his fleshly body could lift 91 stones. Many people couldn't help but sigh. In fact, Xiao Qingfeng was a talented person, and if he was given enough time, he would have a high chance of advancing to the level 9 fairy realm. In fact, he might even become a divine master in the future. However, it was a pity that he had made a mistake and was punished by the great palace master. Even if he managed to defeat Suyu today, he would still be expelled from the sanctum. The two lesser palace masters sighed quietly, while their hearts became gloomy. Even though Xiao Qingfeng's behavior was vile, such a punishment was still a loss to the outer sanctum. Time elapsed quickly, and it was soon Suyu's turn again. This time, he once again attracted a lot of attention. It was unknown how much power Suyu could release from his fleshly body. It wasn't just the smiling youth, junior sister, Lao Ai, Wei Zheng, the 3 palace masters, as well as Xiao Qingfeng. Suyu, come onto the stage. The alluring cabinet master stared at Suyu. Just like last time, you must use your whole power. Otherwise, the sore body might detect it. Suyu nodded and looked at the pile of stones on the ground. He pondered for a moment before he grabbed a large number of stones. In the end, he managed to get 39 stones. His power is close to 4 elephants. It should have been surprising that a level 3 fairy possessed such a fleshly body, but when it appeared on Suyu's body, no one could exclaim in admiration. Then, Suyu's right hand continued grabbing the stones, and he easily grabbed all 49 of them. The power of the 5 elephants. Palace Mistress Kong Chan revealed a satisfied look. Palace Master Hua smiled kindly. Hee, what a good seedling. His Zhenqi is powerful, and his physical body has also reached the power of 5 elephants. With more nurturing, he will definitely become a genius of his generation. Only the great palace master remained silent and observed Suyu calmly. After a short while, Suyu picked up 50 stones, just as the crowd had expected, causing many people to exclaim in surprise. However, what shocked them even more was that Suyu still didn't stop, and he continued grabbing them. 53, 54, 55 yuan. Heavens! His fleshly body is as powerful as 5 elephants and a half. It's even more powerful than his cultivation base. However, the crowd gradually quieted down as they realized that 5 elephants and a half was far from Suyu's limit. 57, 58, 59. At this moment, the crowd was silently counting. At this moment, many people swallowed their saliva in hatred. Would he be able to reach the power of 6 elephants soon? Thump! Suyu picked up a stone. At this moment, the crowd, who had been silent for a long time, let out shocked cries. 6 elephants! A level 3 fairy managed to cultivate the power of 6 elephants. How is this possible? However, what dumbfounded them was that Suyu still didn't stop, and he continued to pick up stones. It was only when he reached the 65th stone that Suyu furrowed his brows and gave up. The alluring cabinet master, who was the judge, couldn't describe what she was feeling now. How was this a level 3 fairy in front of her? He was clearly a little monster that couldn't be killed. If any level 6 fairy ran into Suyu, he would surely be taught a lesson. 6 elephants and a half. How did he manage to cultivate it? The crowd sucked in a breath of cold air. How could they know that Suyu still had real spirit dragon veins, which he hadn't used yet? Otherwise, his power would have reached the level of 7 elephants and a half. Xiao Qingfeng's expression became slightly grave, but he still wore a relaxed expression. It's a pity that there's still a great disparity between us. A grave look appeared on the smiling youth's face as he took a deep breath and said, "He's really a freak. Just this alone is enough for him to fight Jian Wuxing. I think that we don't need to continue probing him. So let's go back and report this matter." Junior's sister, he bit her lip and said, "Let's wait for a while, as there are still challenges ahead. It's rumored that he will fight Xiao Qingfeng, and that will be the best time to observe his fighting prowess." The smiling youth was left helpless, so he could only stay behind. The 2 lesser palace masters were astonished. How did Suyu cultivate? How did he get such a powerful body? The 10th area was once again the center of attention because of Suyu's test. The alluring cabinet master's face lit up as she announced the end of the 2nd test. Her expression became grave as she said solemnly, "The last test will be a practical test. The people with odd numbers among you can choose one of the other half to challenge. You just need to throw your identity badge in front of him." Walala! Several thousand people instantly threw their badges, which were filled with jade badges. What was strange was that more than 100 badges were thrown at the same place at the same time. "Supreme Central Demon, I will challenge you. Get lost. The person who will challenge him is me. All of you, get out of my way. I will challenge the Central Demon in the name of love, and I will fight him for Bing Wuxin." As they shouted angrily, many identity badges piled up into a small mountain in front of Suyu. As Suyu looked at their eyes, which were filled with raging fighting spirit, his mind became chaotic. "All of you get lost." At this moment, a cold snort echoed from the crowd. "If I don't challenge him, it won't be your turn." Such a familiar voice silenced all of the challengers, and they all made way for him. Xiao Qingfeng, who was 30 meters away from Suyu, had his hands clasped behind his back. A cold glint appeared in Suyu's eyes, and he nodded slightly. "That's true. Only after I get rid of you will I have the leisure to fight the others."